The story kicks off with our main character tearing it up on his red motorcycle. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing, and he quickly snags it from his pocket to answer. He introduces himself as Wang Han, and a woman on the other end says she's expecting his child. Our boy doesn't believe a word of it and just hangs up on her. Not giving the call a second thought, he gets his head back in the game and focuses on the road. He shows off his skills weaving through traffic like a pro. In no time he pulls up to the shop to pick up his orders. Our protagonist overhears some whispers and asks a chubby coworker what he's mumbling about. The extra explains that the daughter of the Su family is about to marry the son of the richest man in town. He shows a picture of the girl and says her fiancé is not just ugly, but a total piece of work. At that moment our guy grabs his phone and finds the woman's face strangely familiar. He snatches the phone from his coworker to get a better look at the picture. He then remembers she's the drunk girl who tried to make a move on him once. With that, the phone call from earlier clicks into place, and he realizes it might not have been a prank after all. A flashback to 1 month ago begins, showing the woman from the photo in a hotel hallway. She feels dizzy and suspects someone slipped something into her drink. The young woman is so out of it that she mixes up the room numbers and ends up at the wrong door. Seeing the door ajar, she wonders if she forgot to lock it when she left. Our protagonist was drinking alone, contemplating his life. He complains that his aura was too intense, which is why he went back to being a delivery driver. Just then, the Su family Heiress stumbles into the room and collapses onto his bed. The woman asks who he is and pleads for help, saying she feels really sick. Our young man turns beet red, completely captivated by the girl's beauty. She gets closer and asks for help again, while he wonders if this is all just a dream. He remembers how tightly he gripped those bedsheets that day. The memory fades, and his colleague asks why he's so spaced out over a photo. The chubby coworker starts roasting him, saying he's spinning another one of his tall tales. The other coworkers crack up, remembering how he's claimed to be everything from an arms dealer to a trust fund kid. They ask why such an important guy is delivering food, but he just lights a cigarette and says they wouldn't get it. His colleague scoffs, telling him his lies are getting more ridiculous by the day. Suddenly, a super fancy red sports car pulls up right in front of the delivery center. The delivery guy's jaws are on the floor, completely blown away by the luxury ride. A moment later, the door opens, and a foot in an elegant high heel steps out of the car. To everyone's surprise, the woman who emerges from the car is none other than the Su family Heiress. The young woman stares down the delivery guys with a serious look, showing off her stunning beauty. The extras are completely smitten, with literal hearts in their eyes. Then, one of the guys realizes the woman looks just like the girl from the photo earlier. They all gasp, realizing it's really her, and wonder what the Heiress is doing there. The young woman walks straight up to Wang Han and asks why he didn't answer her calls. His colleagues are gobsmacked, unable to believe that our boy actually knows her. Our protagonist puts out his cigarette and acts cool, casually asking what's up. Without beating around the bush, the young woman reveals she's expecting a child, and the baby is his. Everyone freaks out, questioning if they heard right, that she's having Han's baby. Our young man then asks the woman if she's absolutely sure she hasn't made a mistake. The young woman then gives him a serious look and tells him to come with her to the hospital. She tells him to get in the car, and his coworkers yell at him not to just stand there. Our boy decides to go and asks a colleague to cover for him, with the manager. As soon as he gets in the vehicle, the two speed off through the city streets. Inside the car, our guy is still skeptical, and the girl asks if he really thinks she'd make something like this up. With a serious look, he says he'll take responsibility for both of them if the baby is his. Hearing this, the Su family Heiress glances at him as she drives the luxury car. The young woman scoffs at him and asks how he plans to take responsibility on a delivery driver's salary. Our guy leans back in his seat and says it's no problem, as he earns an honest living. She then reminds him that she's from the Su family, but our young man says he doesn't care about that status nonsense. Annoyed by his response, the woman slams on the brakes. The car screeches to a halt, sending our protagonist's forehead straight into the windshield. He yells, asking if she did that on purpose, but the woman just retorts about the Su family. A short time later, the red car parks in front of a large hospital. The young woman gets out of the vehicle, and our protagonist follows her into the hospital. The young woman warns him to drop the whole responsibility talk, saying he'll be in hot water if her family finds out. But our young man gets fired up and yells that he'll absolutely take responsibility if the child is his. She ignores him and tells him to come inside the hospital so they can get this over with. The two walk in silence down the hallway, and the Heiress tells him to wait for a moment. Our protagonist finds it weird that they're in front of the surgery room and asks why they're there. The Su family Heiress doesn't answer and just says she's going into the room. Our guy is completely shocked, unable to believe what he just heard. Grabs her by the arm and desperately asks if she's serious. The young woman says he can't possibly support them, but our guy insists that money is no object. Just then, a nurse appears and calls for Su-ki to begin the procedure. He grabs her shoulder, but her mind is already made up. The Heiress then pulls away and walks into the operating room, leaving our young man behind. Alone in the hallway, he feels powerless, unable to do anything to stop her. Inside, the young woman is already lying on the gurney while the doctors prepare to start. We can see it in her expression. She really doesn't want to go through with this. The doctor then prepares a syringe and tells the young woman not to worry, as it will all be over soon. Even so, she goes along with it and closes her eyes. But at the last second, she raises her hand, and with a glimmer in her eye, asks the doctor to wait. Outside, our boy waits with a sense of resignation, thinking he can't do anything if she doesn't want the baby. Suddenly, the door opens, and to his surprise, she walks out of the operating room. Our protagonist immediately spots her. He rushes over asking how she's feeling. The young woman says she's a little tired and asks him to drive her home in her car. Our young man agrees in a heartbeat, bragging that he can fly anything, even a fighter jet. With that, the two leave the hospital, and he gets behind the wheel of the red sports car. While they're driving through a fancy neighborhood, our guy's phone starts ringing. He answers the call and asks what the person on the other end of the line wants. Someone informs him about an event and says that an important president will be following his orders. A little later, they arrive at a huge mansion, and our boy lets her know they're there. He then looks over at her and notices she doesn't seem well. Suki says she's home and tells him to leave so her family won't see him, but our guy says she looks weak and wants to walk her to the door. But the young woman refuses his help and tells him to stay out of her business as our young man waves goodbye. She walks towards the house. Suki's heel suddenly twists on the uneven ground. The woman cries out and starts to fall forward as our protagonist watches it all unfold. Our guy reacts instantly, and with a focused look, he dashes to help her. In one swift motion, he catches her in his arms just in time to prevent the fall. Our guy then calls her clumsy, but the young woman gets annoyed and asks what he said, so the young man repeats it. The Sue family Harris grabs our boy's jacket tightly. She pinches our protagonist's arm, but even so, our boy doesn't back down. He takes the opportunity to hold her. He then lifts her into a Princess Carrie and complains that her pinch was way too strong. The scene then shifts to the interior of the grand mansion of the Harris's family. Once inside, he sets her down on the couch and kneels to take care of her injured ankle. The young woman says she doesn't need help and tells him to leave, but our guy insists and tells her to stop moving. At that moment, the sound of approaching heels echoes through the large room. Suddenly, the door opens and the two are caught off guard in the living room. Two women appear at the door and walk in on the suspicious scene between them. The Harris's mother, along with her best friend, demands to know what's going on. Our protagonist stands up and explains that the young woman just twisted her ankle. To avoid trouble, the young woman says he's her boyfriend and just came to help her. Hearing our guy is completely shocked and speechless. Suki's mother is also in shock and yells, asking if that delivery boy is really her boyfriend. Her mother screams and asks her daughter what is happening in that room. She then points at our young man and asks who that delivery boy is. Suki just remains silent with a very serious expression. Then the young woman says it was a joke, and that our young man only helped her with her ankle. Her mother reminds her that she's marrying into the Kyun family and can't afford to make any mistakes. Our protagonist then asks what's wrong with being a delivery driver. The woman calls him a nobody and tells him to keep dreaming if he thinks he'll ever be with her daughter. With that, our boy is furious about what he just heard from that lady. To avoid any more drama, the young woman thanks him and asks him to leave. Our young man then turns to leave as the Harris's friend watches him go. The mother tells the friend to take the young woman to her room and to clean up where the boy stepped. In the bedroom, the friend asks what her relationship is with that delivery driver. The friend says she might be able to fool her mother, but not her, because she saw the way she looked at him. Without hesitation, Sukiya reveals to her friend that she's expecting our boy's child. Upon hearing the news, the friend is completely shocked and in disbelief. The friend asks if she's serious and why with a delivery driver, but the young woman says she drank too much and it was an accident. The young woman questions how she'll hide this from the Kyun family, but Sue reveals she's already made up her mind and is keeping the baby. At this, the friend freaks out and yells that she's completely lost her mind. The young woman then explains that she talked to the guy, and he promised he would take full responsibility. The friend reminds her that she's from the Sue family, and that the delivery driver has nothing to offer. She says she'll handle this herself and asks why her friend came back. The young woman explains that her grandfather came for an event, and she just came with him. Suki's friend gets an idea. She tells Suki that she's had an idea. She suggests the young woman claim the delivery driver forced himself on her, but she thinks the idea is horrible. The scene then changes, and we see our protagonist walking alone through the streets of the neighborhood. Our young man complains that there are no taxis in this fancy area as a black car approaches. The vehicle then pulls up right next to our boy, who eyes the situation. Our guy gets a little suspicious of the car's sudden approach. An old man in a suit gets out of the car and greets our young man as Wung Master. Just watches. The old man then explains that he's there to take him to the evening's auction event. Our young man remembers his grandfather had mentioned that event. He says he needs a shower and some new clothes before going to the fancy party. The black limousine speeds off through the city streets. A little while later, they arrive at a banquet hall crowded with rich and important people. Now dressed in an elegant suit, our boy is impressed by the number of people there. Suddenly a familiar voice calls his name and he turns to see who it is. To his surprise, it's Suki's friend who recognizes our boy. She questions him and asks if by any chance he's also working as a waiter. Our young man tries to say no, but the girl doesn't let him speak. Losing her patience, the young woman grabs the sleeve of our protagonist's suit. She then drags him to a more private corner so they can talk alone. The girl warns him that Suki is her best friend and threatens him if he doesn't step up for the baby. Our boy is shocked because he thought Sue had terminated the pregnancy. The friend yells that she decided to keep the baby, and our young man is stunned. He then wonders if she really didn't go through with the procedure at the hospital yesterday. Angrily, the young woman threatens him again, saying she'll make him regret it if he tries to run. To show she's serious, she stomps on his foot with her high heel. Our protagonist yells in pain as the young woman walks away. At that moment, a man on stage announces that the auction event is about to begin. Our boy thinks he needs to wrap things up here quickly so he can go find her and figure out what's going on. A woman in a suit and glasses approaches and greets him as Wung Master. She introduces herself as his assistant, Lu Yu, and says she was sent by President Lin. Our young man says the auction is about to start and tells her to come with him to the main hall. However, someone suddenly enters the hall, causing a commotion. Up at the front, an extra announces that the night's project has already been claimed by the Kyun family. The man twirls his mustache with a smirk and asks everyone to show some respect. He introduces himself as Kyun Lei of the Kyun family and threatens anyone who doesn't cooperate. Our guy asks who the man is, and the assistant explains that he's his biggest rival of the night. Our guy scoffs and asks if that guy thinks he can compete with him, but the assistant explains the Kyun family's plan. He then remembers his coworker talking trash about Suki's fiancé and realizes he's from that family. With a serious look, our young man finally understands the whole situation. On stage, the auctioneer announces the bidding for Lot 53, the project everyone wants. Without wasting a second, Kyun Lei raises his paddle and offers 5 billion for the major project. The guests are shocked by the high bid and comment that no one would dare challenge the Kyuns. But our protagonist calmly raises his paddle and offers 6 billion. The crowd panics, wondering who the crazy person is who just challenged the Kyun family like that. Everyone whispers that the guy has a death wish and that the Kyuns won't let this insult slide. Annoyed by our boy's audacity, Kyun Lei becomes furious. He stands up enraged and shouts, asking who our young man is and if he's looking for a fight. The rival stands up with his goons and yells that in this city, his family calls the shots. He then grabs our guy by the collar and says no one takes what they want. The man then offers 900 million and threatens our boy if he continues. Our young man just lets out a mocking laugh, completely ignoring his rival's threat. With a confident smirk, he raises his paddle and offers 1 billion for the project. The rival loses his mind and lunges at our guy, trying to throw a punch. But our boy is faster and lands a solid punch right in the man's face. The impact sends the rival flying backward, and our young man asks if that's all he's got. All the goons rush to attack our boy while their boss is already down. Without wasting time, he throws a chair at them. One of them realized it wasn't a good idea to mess with our boy. In a quick and precise move, he takes down another one of the goons. Lying on the floor, the rival screams in fury, asking if our guy really wants to get taken out. Our boy then turns to his rival and confirms that he's the one who's about to get a beatdown. Our young man then leaps toward the rival, who screams in desperation on the floor. With a powerful blow, he hits the rival square on, and a loud bang echoes through the hall. And just like that, the rival is completely knocked out on the floor. After the fight, our young man turns to the audience and asks if anyone else is going to bid. Auctioneer, completely terrified, stammers that there are no more bids. Our boy then tells his assistant to handle the paperwork because he has urgent business to attend to. She's in a luxurious room talking with an old man who is sitting on the sofa. The young woman asks her grandfather why he called her in such a hurry that she missed the auction. With a serious look, the grandfather tells her not to say anything foolish when the person arrives because he doesn't know her. The young woman then wonders what kind of important person would make her grandfather act so cautiously. A man in a suit informs them that the auction is over, but the Kyun family didn't win the project. Surprised, the young woman can't believe they lost and wonders who dared to stand up to them. Then her grandfather says the person they were waiting for has arrived, and the young woman thinks he's very arrogant. She tells her grandfather she's stepping out to make a call to her friend Nanan. Walking down the hall, she thinks that the Kyun family won't be able to cooperate with the sus for a while. Distracted by her phone, the young woman ends up bumping right into our protagonist's chest. She yells at our young man and calls him a stinky delivery boy, asking why it's him again. But she ignores him and walks away while calling her friend to tell her she has important news. At that moment, the young woman's grandfather stands up and greets our young man, who has just arrived. Our boy says he's already handled his business and asks who the woman from earlier was. The old man introduces her as his granddaughter and says she greatly admires the young master and wanted to meet him. The man explains that the marriage alliance between the Kyuns and the Sus will be postponed because of our guy's intervention. Our young man gets curious and asks about Suki's life and if she's ever had any boyfriends. The old man replies that the Su family is strict and that the young woman has never had a boyfriend. With a smile, our young man finally understands everything, but suddenly his phone rings. He notices a call from Su. He answers and the young woman says she wants to see him, so our boy agrees to meet her. Our guy says goodbye to the old man, but the old man tries to bring up his granddaughter again, but he says some other time. She's sitting on a park bench reflecting. With a sad expression, the young woman seems to be deep in thought about her situation. Soon after, our protagonist arrives on his motorcycle at the arranged spot. He stops behind her after seeing that she was sitting down. Our boy sits down next to her and tells her not to worry, because he'll support her. She then looks at him and asks if he really has the means to support them. With a confident look, our young man hugs her and asks why he wouldn't. The young woman points to the expensive watch on his wrist and asks if he knows how much it costs. Our guy identifies the model and the exact price of the watch. She then questions how many years he'd have to work as a delivery driver to buy one. He reassures her, saying that money is no issue and she can have the baby in peace. Suddenly, her phone rings again, interrupting their moment. It's her mother on the line. It's telling her to come back, because her fiancé is waiting to talk about the wedding. The young woman then asks our young man to take her home, and he agrees with a smile. Our boy points to his motorcycle and tells her to hop on so they can go. Speeding through the streets, the two cut through traffic. She leans against our guy's back and closes her eyes, enjoying the moment. They continue their journey at high speed through the bustling city streets. Arriving at the mansion, our boy parks the motorcycle and walks the young woman to the door. At the entrance, the young woman tells her mother she's arrived while our young man stands beside her. Her mother appears, furious, asking where she's been because her fiancé was waiting. She calmly replies that she just went out for a walk around the neighborhood. The woman questions why she brought someone with her, and if she remembers the upcoming wedding. The man on the sofa greets her, and he is introduced as the supposed fiancé from the Kyun family. Suki interrupts the conversation and says to postpone the discussion because the cooperation deal hasn't been finalized. But the fiancé ignores this and says it's a small matter because they can get married first. He thinks to himself that first, he'll get her into bed, and only then will he think about helping her family. The mother then reveals that the Kyuns are going to give them 1 billion to help out, but the young woman tells her to stop. With a determined look, Soo-ki states in no uncertain terms that she will not marry him. The Fianki and her mother are completely shocked by the young woman's sudden declaration. She grabs Argai's arm and says she's already pregnant with his child. The mother is speechless, her eyes wide with disbelief at what she just heard. The woman yells at her daughter, saying he's just a delivery boy, but the young woman asks for more time. The woman yells that her daughter has no shame and prepares to slap her. But our young man grabs the woman's wrist, stopping the slap aimed at his woman. He then asks what's wrong with being a delivery driver, and if he did something wrong to the family. Our guy questions if selling your own daughter for profit isn't the real shameless act. The woman screams for the filthy delivery boy to let her go immediately. The fiancé gets angry and points at Soo-kyu, insulting her for being with a delivery driver. Enraged, the fiancé says he's been cheated on with a delivery driver and swears he'll finish our young man. Without a second thought, our young man delivers a powerful slap across the man's face. The impact sends the man flying to the floor. He says she's pregnant with his child and asks who gave him the right to insult his woman. Lying on the floor, the fiancé screams in fury and promises he'll make him understand the consequences. Then the man grabs a heavy ashtray from the coffee table to attack. Screaming that he's going to end him, the fiancé charges forward with the object in his hand. With a smirk, our young man tells the girl to stay behind him and she obeys. Effortlessly, our boy dodges the blow. Then our young man lands a powerful punch on the fiancé, who flies backward from the impact. Lying on the floor, the fiancé glares at our guy, who scolds him for daring to touch his woman. Our young man then gets on top of the man and says he's going to teach him a lesson. Without wasting time, he starts delivering a flurry of punches to the fiancé's face, who screams in pain. With a bruised face, the man desperately screams for help while getting beaten. But before he could land another punch, someone yells for him to stop. Suddenly, an elderly man arrives with his entourage and asks who dares to act in such a way. Surprised, the young woman recognizes the man as her grandfather and wonders what he's doing there. The grandfather's group enters the room while the fiancé remains on the floor after the beating. With a serious look, the grandfather reveals that he heard the entire argument that took place in the room. He then turns to his granddaughter and asks if it's true that she's pregnant by the delivery boy. With a serious expression, the young woman confirms the pregnancy to her grandfather without hesitation. The family panics, and the grandfather shouts that the child must be gotten rid of because they can't offend the Kyuns. The fiancé then says that even if she gets rid of the child, he will no longer accept her into the Kyun family. The young woman's father despairs, saying the Soo family is finished because of her actions. The young woman remains silent with a sad expression, listening to her family's harsh words. Soo-ki screams for everyone to stop arguing immediately. She doesn't feel well and ends up fainting. Our young man catches her and tells her not to be afraid, that he'll take her far away. He then picks her up in his arms while her father yells for the delivery boy to let her go. With a look of contempt, our guy questions if they even consider themselves human anymore. He then turns and starts to leave the mansion, carrying the young woman in his arms. Her father tries to stop him, but our young man kicks furniture at them. He then announces that he's taking Soo-kyu and asks if anyone has a problem with it. The young woman's parents are completely shocked and speechless at our guy's actions. The grandfather and other relatives are also frozen, not knowing what to do. Since no one dares to answer, he just turns and leaves the mansion with her in his arms. Soon after, they arrive at our young man's apartment in a luxury building. Once there, he gently places the young woman on the sofa so she can rest. At that moment, ID card falls out of her purse. Our boy then bends down and picks up the card that fell. He realizes it's her birthday and thinks about how no one in her family remembered. Our guy then decides he's going to show her what he's capable of as her man. 20 minutes pass and Soo-ki continues to rest on the apartment sofa. Finally, the young woman wakes up and sits on the sofa, confused about where she is. Our young man then appears in an apron, offering her a bowl of food. He reveals that he's prepared a special feast just for her. The young woman is captivated by the smell of the food, and our young man brags about his skills. Smile Soo-kyu asks if he can stop bragging for even a moment. She then pulls out a chair to sit at the table. Then our guy reveals the real surprise, a birthday cake just for her. With a smile on his face, our young man wishes her a happy birthday. The young woman is completely shocked and moved, asking how he found out it was her birthday. Seated at the table, our guy asks if the surprise wasn't incredible, leaving her thoughtful. With tears in her eyes, the young woman is touched by our boy's gesture. Our young man then offers his shoulder for her to cry on, bragging that not even supermodels get to use it. The young woman then starts to laugh, amused by his attempt to comfort her. Our guy then invites her to try the food he prepared for the occasion. She tries the food and confirms that it's absolutely delicious. The table is filled with a variety of dishes, showing our young man's effort. He then tells the young woman to make a wish, and she closes her eyes to concentrate. After the happy moment, our protagonist asks what her plans are for the future. The young woman then questions if he's going to back out of his promise to support her with the baby. He challenges her to marry a delivery driver, and she accepts on the spot, setting the wedding for the next day. With a determined look, the young woman confirms she's not afraid and accepts his proposal. With a satisfied smile, our protagonist says the deal is sealed between them. Suddenly, our boy's phone starts vibrating in the middle of dinner, breaking the mood. He then gets up and says he needs to take the call. Out on the apartment balcony, our young man asks the person what happened. On the other end of the line, his subordinate informs him that an assassin named Hydra is in town to take him out. Calmly, he says he'll take care of it the next day. Meanwhile, Soo-kyu is sitting on the sofa and also receives an important call. Her friend calls to wish her a happy birthday, and the young woman replies that she was the second person to do so. The friend thinks it was the fiancé, but Soo-kyu reveals it was our guy who wished her a happy birthday first. She eats another piece of cake. The young woman then reveals to her friend that she's marrying him tomorrow and that she's at his apartment. Desperate, the friend begs Sukyu to calm down and says she'll find a way to fix the situation. The friend then promises she'll beg her grandfather to help her get out of this crisis. On the balcony, the subordinate reveals that a princess asked where our guy was. Our young man lights a cigarette and angrily asks if the guy revealed his location. The subordinate explains that he was forced to talk because the princess has a very strong temper. With the shocking news, our boy's lighter slips from his hand. Furious, our protagonist yells at the guy on the phone, accusing him of betraying him. The subordinate then pretends the signal is bad and hangs up on him. Unable to do anything, our young man crouches on the balcony, thinking the situation has gotten complicated. Suddenly, his phone vibrates again, and he wonders who's bothering him now. He sees a message from a young woman introducing herself as Lin Qingyan's granddaughter. The young woman proposes a partnership with the Su family and offers to do anything in return. Our protagonist is lost in thought, reading the bold proposal from Lin Qingyan's granddaughter. Soon after, he receives a call from the young woman's grandfather, apologizing for the trouble and saying he can ask for any gift as compensation. He then asks for a rifle and 2 bullets and gives the authority of a project to Sukyu. Lying in bed, reading a book. She then receives a message from her friend saying that the big shot accepted the partnership. A smile on her face, Sukyu is very happy with the news. Back at the apartment, our guy sees her sitting and smiling and asks her about it. Our young man then comments that he didn't expect her to have a habit of reading books. He then approaches her and says there are many things she doesn't expect about him. At that moment, our boy gets even closer and Sukyu gets nervous about his actions. But he just grabs a pillow and tells her to rest in bed, that he'll sleep on the couch. Before leaving, our young man warns that reading in bed isn't good for pregnant women, leaving her speechless. Lying in bed, the young woman is embarrassed because she thought he was going to try something with her. The very next morning, the sun rises on a new day in the city. We see our protagonist starting the day with a heavy workout on the apartment balcony. She then appears and sees him training, asking if that's frog style. He explains that the technique is called the dragon coiling hand, but the young woman has never heard of it. Our guy says it's a lethal martial art, and she questions why a delivery driver would learn it. He replies that his father taught him to use martial arts to protect his family, and the young woman agrees with his philosophy. Suki then announces that breakfast is on the table, and our young man is surprised by how thoughtful she can be. She says there's a lot he hasn't noticed yet, and our guy invites her to his place after they eat. The young woman is confused, and our boy explains it's to get the documents for the wedding, leaving the girl thoughtful. Angrily, Suki thinks he's getting scared and confirms that they are getting married today without a second thought. The blue sky indicates that a new day full of events is just beginning for our couple. They leave the apartment. He asks why, and the young woman explains she's afraid his family won't approve of her, but that they'd have no choice with a grandchild on the way. Our guy then questions if she's marrying his family, and the young woman compliments his looks and his style. But she adds that his family background is a little weak, leaving our boy pensive. With a smile, he gets on his motorcycle and jokingly asks if he's not good enough for her. She just scoffs at his teasing and gets on the back of the red motorcycle. Our young man then tells her to hold on tight, and they speed off through the city. Speed out of the complex. From a distance, 2 extras watch them. Suki's ex-fiancé is furious to learn she spent the night with a delivery driver. The big shot orders his goons to take out our guy and bring him the girl. The guy then accepts the order and says he'll take his men to follow the couple. Meanwhile, our young man continues to ride the motorcycle at high speed through the streets. He then notices in his rearview mirror that a white car is following them closely. With a smirk, our boy notes that someone is tailing him in broad daylight. He then tells Sukyu to go home and get her things because he needs to take care of something. After she agrees, our guy guns the engine to lose their pursuers. A short time later, they arrive in front of her house. The young woman gets off the motorcycle, and our protagonist prepares to leave and handle the problem. He then looks back and sees the goons' white van approaching quickly. Without wasting time, our young man revs the engine and speeds away to lure the enemies. With an incredible maneuver, he makes a sharp turn and skids on the asphalt with the motorcycle. The motorcycle's tire screeches on the pavement and he comes to a stop. After shaking the goons, he stops in front of a building and looks up at a balcony. Our guy then confirms his suspicions when he sees the assassins lying in wait. With a confident smile, our guy says it's time to stretch his legs and that he'll take care of all of them at once. Our young man then enters the building and heads up the stairs to the floor where the assassins are hiding. Arriving at the apartment, he finds a case with a sniper rifle and begins to assemble it on the table. Holding the weapon, our boy compliments Lin, saying he really knows how to get things done. Suddenly, our protagonist notices something strange on the bed and is confused. At that moment, Suki's friend comes out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel and screams when she sees our young man in the room. She points at our young man and yells, asking what a delivery driver is doing in her house. However, there's a laser sight on her forehead. The protagonist notices and yells for her to get down immediately. Just then, a bullet shatters the window, and our boy tackles her to the ground to protect her from the shot. The young woman tries to break free and curses at him while he keeps her on the ground for her safety. He then looks at the scared young woman and tells her to calm down. Our protagonist then warns her not to scream, or she could end up getting seriously hurt. He then grabs the rifle and aims out the window, ready to hunt down the assassin. With a single shot, our young man fires at the building where the enemy was hiding. The bullet flies at high speed towards the shooter on the other balcony. But suddenly, another shot comes their way, and our guy yells for her to get down. He saves her from the shot once again. Our boy picks up a dress from the floor and realizes there's someone on the other side as well. Besides the assassin Hydra, he remembers that the van that was following him hasn't been dealt with yet. Adding this shootout to mix, he comments that the day is full of unwanted guests. Without wasting time, our guy aims again with the scared young woman right behind him. Kneeling on the floor, our young man fires at the shooter on the other balcony. The bullet flies at high speed toward the target, shattering the window. The projectile hits the assassin dead on, knocking him backward instantly. We see the enemy lying lifeless on the floor after our boy's perfect shot. The young woman then questions him about the situation, and he says that Hydra character is history. But suddenly our guy senses imminent danger and goes on high alert. Another bullet comes flying toward them through the broken window. We then see that another shooter was hidden in a different spot, aiming at them. The new enemy fires again at our protagonist without hesitation. He quickly shoves the young woman onto the sofa to get her out of the line of fire, and she curses at him. Our young man then picks up the bullet casing that got stuck in the wall and examines it. He notices a hexagram on the bullet tip and explains that it's a mark of the Abe's organization. With that, he turns to her and asks when she picked a fight with the Europeans. Our protagonist then realizes he was careless and let the enemy set up 2 shots. The young woman remembers that a European boss wanted to buy her technology, but she refused. With his eyes fixed, our young man figures out the enemy's plan and prepares to act. He then yells for the young woman to be careful and pushes her down to protect her again. Sitting on the floor, the two recover from the shock, with the young woman still very frightened. Our guy then picks up a shard of glass from the floor and says he has a trick up his sleeve. Without wasting a moment, our boy runs toward the window with the glass shard in his hand. With incredible strength, he throws the piece of glass as if it were a knife. The shard hits the shooter in the neck, who wasn't expecting this surprise attack. Both assassins on the balcony taken down, the immediate danger has finally passed. Our young man then tells the girl she can get up because it's safe now. The young woman questions him about his identity, and he says she doesn't need to know who he is. She threatens him, saying she'll tell Nanan, but he asks her to be quiet. Our guy then warns that there's noise outside and that they need to stay quiet. Scared, the young woman asks if there's still someone else, and is terrified by the situation. She clings to him, and our boy calms her down, telling her not to panic and that he'll check it out. Outside, 3 goons appear, and one of them recognizes our young man. The leader of the goons then assumes that our young man is there to rob the place. At that moment, our guy appears coming down the stairs and greets them. Our guy then faces them with a smile and asks if they were all there to see him. The brute accuses him of getting involved with Boss Hao's woman and demands an explanation. Our young man then understands the situation and calmly asks what they want with him. With no more talk, the 3 goons charge with their swords drawn, ready to attack. But our boy is faster and lands a powerful kick to the first enemy's chin. He lands a solid blow to the chest of one of the goons. With a swift move, 2 are already on the ground, and only the leader remains standing. The brute is impressed and realizes the delivery driver is actually a martial artist. Annoyed, he refuses to believe he can be defeated by a simple delivery driver. The goon then attacks with his sword, but our young man easily dodges the blow. Our guy lands a precise kick. At that moment, the blonde girl appears on the stairs and sees the goon being defeated. Frightened, she screams into the phone while watching the chaos. The brute gets up and angrily yells at the girl to stop making noise. He then lunges forward and grabs the girl by the arm, using her as a hostage against our protagonist. The brute then threatens our protagonist, using the girl as a human shield. But our young man doesn't seem worried at all and challenges him to continue. As he walks, our guy challenges him, and the goon panics at the scene. The goon panics and yells for our young man to stop getting closer. In the blink of an eye, our protagonist vanishes. Suddenly, he's in front of the man. He stops the enemy's sword using just a single finger, effortlessly. The brute tries to move the sword but realizes it's impossible. Our boy then taunts him and asks why he doesn't just attack him already. Completely terrified, the goon is speechless at his power. With a simple flick, our young man shatters the blade into several pieces. The goon and the girl are in shock as they see the sword breaking in mid-air. Without wasting a moment, our guy grabs him by the neck and lifts him off the ground. Choking, the brute tries to save himself by saying he's from the Black Dragon Society. But our boy doesn't care and lands a hard slap on the enemy's head. The blow sends the goon flying and he lands on the ground, completely knocked out. Lying on the ground, the goon yells for our young man not to turn to a life of crime. Our protagonist ignores him and lands a powerful kick to his chest. The impact makes the brute spit out a stream of blood and scream in pain. The goon then begs our young man to stop and says he has important information. Our boy gives him 3 seconds and the enemy reveals that Boss Hao went after Sukyu. Our guy is shocked by the revelation and realizes the urgency of the situation. He kicks him again and asks why he didn't say that sooner. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and they hear the police identifying themselves outside. He then says he's going after Sukyu and asks the girl not to tell anyone he was there. 2 police officers enter the house and find the blonde young woman standing in the living room. One of the officers shows his badge and asks what happened. Outside, she explains that 3 armed men broke into her house. With that, the police officers cuff the 3 goons and take them to the station. An officer then informs the captain that they found 2 bodies across the street. The protagonist runs desperately to find Sukyu. At her house, Kyun Hao is already there. He says he tried to be calm before, but now he's going to use force. We then see Sukai telling the man to leave, but he says he's already sent people after the delivery driver. Lunges at Suki, screaming that he's going to end her life today. The ex-fiancé then grabs the girl, telling her she can scream all she wants, but no one's coming to save her. With a sinister smirk, he says the delivery guy can't even save himself and that he's about to take care of her, but just then a foot flies right into the man's face, cutting him off mid-threat. The attacker is sent flying, and we see that our hero has arrived just in the nick of time to save her. He glares at the guy and warns him, "If you dare touch my woman, you must have a death wish." Sprawled on the floor, the ex-fiancé asks if some measly delivery boy really has the guts to hit him and demands to know if he has any idea who his father is. Our protagonist fires back that he couldn't care less who his dad is, because he's about to get a hefty hospital bill for the son he raised. The ex-fiancé scrambles to his feet, boasting that his father is the richest man in the city, and that our hero is going to seriously regret this. Out of patience, the young man lands a powerful kick to the aggressor's chest, who has no idea what just hit him. The villain is launched through the window, and our MC turns to the girl, telling her everything's alright now. He pulls her into a comforting hug, promising that as long as he's around, no one will ever lay a hand on her again. Meanwhile, the ex-fiancé is crawling away, cursing out the delivery guy and swearing this isn't over. Now that they've calmed down, our young man asks for the time, and the girl finds his sudden question a bit odd. He explains that he forgot about a meeting and invites her to come along. She immediately accepts without a second thought. Soon after, they arrive at a massive building where someone informs them that CEO Liu is already waiting in the conference room. They enter the room, and the young woman apologizes to CEO Liu for their delay. But the CEO is stunned when she sees our hero calling him young master, before he quickly cuts her off. He plays it off like they're old friends, and the girl beside him is surprised by this revelation. The heiress says it's quite a coincidence and invites the CEO to have a seat, who agrees, looking a bit flustered. With that, the girl suggests they get straight to the point and start discussing the project. Suddenly, her grandfather and a few other men burst into the room, saying they couldn't possibly miss out on such a huge project. The young woman is surprised by her grandfather's appearance, and CEO Liu greets him formally. The old man explains he got so excited about the meeting that he just had to rush over and join in. He then complains about our hero being there, but his granddaughter defends him, saying she has every right to bring him along. The girl's father appears furious and orders our young man to get up and serve the CEO some water. Her brother introduces himself to the CEO and declares that his sister's word means nothing in this company. The young woman tries to protest, but her grandfather tells her to shut her mouth and go get the water as she was told. Her uncle then chimes in, telling her to leave business matters to her brother, since she'll be getting married soon anyway. Our protagonist gets furious and asks why they're all trying to steal the project that was rightfully hers. But the relatives just tell him to shut up, asking who he thinks he is to meddle in their family affairs. Her brother scoffs, saying she not only found herself a delivery boy for a boyfriend, but even got knocked up by him. The grandfather then orders her to get that piece of trash out of his sight, but the young woman defends him, saying he earns an honest living. This infuriates the old man, who screams at his granddaughter for having the audacity to talk back to him. Then our hero steps up, stating that only Suki can handle this project, which just irritates the grandfather even more. He turns to the CEO and asks her to give the project to his fiancée, and the woman agrees without a moment's hesitation. The girl's father is confused by this turn of events and tries to argue that his daughter isn't capable of handling the project. The CEO cuts him off, informing him that her company will only negotiate with Suki, and if they don't accept that, she'll find another partner. The CEO adds that Suki is the only one in charge and that he isn't even qualified to be speaking with her. Speechless, the grandfather starts to break out in a cold sweat, realizing he's lost all power in this negotiation. Seeing they were about to lose the deal, her father quickly agrees to the terms, announcing the project will be his daughter's. With that settled, the CEO says she'll discuss the details with Suki and that everyone else can leave the room. With no other choice, the relatives agree and begin to file out of the conference room, looking completely defeated. The brother complains to his father about the situation, but the older man tells him to shut his mouth immediately. Our hero then smirks and comments that they're a real bunch of clowns as the CEO hands the contract over to Suki. Outside, the brother is still fuming, asking his father how he could just let that girl take over the project. The father tells his son not to worry, because he already has a plan to deal with the situation. The man then asks the uncle to step aside for a moment and reveals that Suki is not his biological daughter. The uncle asks if he was cheated on, but the father explains that the young woman was adopted, calling her a disgrace. Hearing this revelation, the uncle gets curious and asks about the girl's real parents. He replies that he doesn't know, only that her father left behind a worthless pendant, before his son asks about the plan. The man then reveals his scheme. He's gonna let the girl secure the project, only to snatch it away from her at the perfect moment. The son agrees to his father's wicked plan with a satisfied smirk on his face. With that, the younger brother asks about the plan, and the father says his uncle isn't a stranger, so he can tell him. He then reveals with a sly grin that he's going to let Suki handle the project, and then he'll swipe it from her. And just like that, the brother gets the picture. Far from there, in front of a building, our hero arrives to handle another matter. Our protagonist then finds two security guards and asks them for a favor. The chubbier guard then asks what such a sharp, dressed guy is doing there. Our boy then says he's there for a delivery, and the two security guards start laughing. The protagonist then asks what's so funny and if they're looking for a fight. The security guards then straighten up and say that President 2 is arriving. Our young man scoffs and says they're making a big fuss over some lady. Right after, President 2 appears and greets the security guards and our boy. The security guard then wonders if he heard correctly and if the president actually spoke to him. The guard says they were just talking and that he wants to give him some advice. The woman then calls our hero to get in the car, so the protagonist walks to the car and tells the guards he'll listen to their advice later. The two security guards are left in shock, watching our hero leave with the president. Inside the car, the woman says that the job seems to be going well for him. The protagonist says he's already scheduled everything for them to get the marriage certificate in the morning. She then reveals she's marrying him so her child won't be born without a father, and after the child is born, she'll give him 30,000 a month. Our hero then asks if this is her way of trying to be his sugar mama. He then says that 30,000 is way too little to support him, but she tells him not to get greedy. The woman then says that 30,000 is more than enough for a delivery guy. A short time later, they arrive at their destination. Our boy then says he's already memorized the way home, and the lady says that with her, he can go wherever he wants. Then they walk through the courtyard. Our protagonist's cell phone starts ringing. He answers and asks what the old man wants, and he says a shipment of goods was stolen by the Black Dragon Guild. Our boy then says he'll handle it before noon tomorrow, but the old man questions him about his wedding. Our young man gets furious and asks who leaked this information, and the old man says it was Lam Than Van. The old man then says that Lam Than Van's older sister will visit him tomorrow and hangs up the phone. Our protagonist is furious and yells that one day he'll get his revenge on that old geezer. After he hangs up, Suki asks what's wrong. He then calms down and tells her it's nothing. They enter the apartment. The lady then finds a card on the table and asks what it is. Our boy says it's just a card and asks if she's hungry because he's going to cook. She then sits on the couch and thinks that it's nice to have a husband who knows his way around the kitchen. The protagonist tells her to wait a bit, that he'll be done soon, and she thanks him for the effort. Then he grabs the pan to get started. She calmly watches him cook. The next day, they go to City Hall to make the marriage official. And now, officially married, they leave the building. Suki then asks if he has any deliveries to make, and he says no, but he has a meeting. She then gets angry and says they're family now and that he can do whatever he wants. The protagonist then says he needs to go now and that he had already told her about this. He then goes to a huge building and says this is the place for his meeting. The protagonist explains that the Black Dragon Guild was a local gang that went corporate, but they only do business like car reselling, debt collection, and loan sharking. So he's eager to see what they're really capable of. Upon arriving at the reception, one of the goons asks what our hero wants. Our boy then answers directly that he came to collect a debt. One of the guys scoffs and says their company offers that service and sends him to the second floor. Then the other member asks if our protagonist knows where he is and asks if he's tired of living. The long-haired goon tries a kick against the protagonist, who easily dodges it, leaving the goon wide open. He ends up falling to his knees on the floor. Then the protagonist quickly lands a kick to his face. Seeing this, the other guard charges at the protagonist. Our young man, like a capoeira master, lands a kick to the goon's face as well. The first goon who fell looks at the protagonist after being easily defeated. Our boy then asks if he can meet their boss now. Meanwhile, the boss is in his office being entertained by a young lady. He pours wine on his chest, and she begins to lick it off sensually. The boss then says that if she liked the wine, she should drink some more. Suddenly, the office door bursts open, and a goon enters, yelling that there's an intruder. The boss gets furious and starts yelling at the goon for entering without knocking. The goon tries to warn him that it's the protagonist, but is interrupted. Our hero throws a guild member into the boss's office, making him fall to the floor in front of the boss. The boss stands up furiously and asks who the protagonist is and how he dares invade his territory. Our boy then throws a card in his direction. The boss looks at the card, which is now stuck quivering in his desk. He then despairs and wonders if that's really the black card of the Shiflao Guild. The goon is then shocked and asks what the Shiflao Guild is. Our protagonist says he's surprised he's heard of the guild. The boss then becomes terrified, throws his gun on the floor, and completely changes his posture with the protagonist. On his knees, he says that even though the protagonist has stepped away from the underworld, he's still a legend. The boss starts to suck up to the protagonist. Our boy then says he heard that he stole a shipment. Trembling with no choice, the man says he will return what was stolen, but then he tries to grab his gun. Our protagonist then says that if he wants to settle things that way, that's fine. But it was a trick. He points the gun at the protagonist, threatening to shoot. Our boy then quickly flicks his cigarette towards the gun. The cigarette hits the weapon, making it change the direction of the shot. Our hero then reveals that he hates having guns pointed at him. He uses the black card to put an end to the guild leader. Deadly slice across the man's neck. The woman screams in terror upon seeing the lifeless boss on the floor. The goon is in shock, wondering if his leader is really gone. Suddenly, all the guild members enter the room and see the boss's body on the floor. Everyone is shocked to see what happened. Our boy then gives them two choices, either they hand over the cargo, or they pass away. The goon then reveals that the cargo had nothing to do with him, and decides to follow the protagonist. Our hero then tells him to take him to the stolen goods. Outside the Black Dragon Guild building, an old acquaintance of ours appears. His son warns him to be careful, but the furious father says he's going to finish the protagonist today. Lam Than Van's father yells at the entrance that he came to see the boss of the Black Dragon Guild. He's willing to pay any amount for the boss to take out a delivery guy. Inside the office, the former goon introduces himself as the new leader to the other members. But the old man enters the room, yelling for the old boss. He then asks where the guild leader is. Lam Than Van's father says he's not there to talk to him, but to the old boss, but the new leader interrupts him. The old man then offers 5 million for them to take care of a delivery guy, and the new boss is interested and asks who it is. With a look of rage, Lam Than Van's father says he wants them to take out the protagonist. The new boss scoffs and wonders if the old man is messing with him in his own territory. The man says he's not kidding, and the protagonist left him like this and stole his woman and that he wants revenge. The boss laughs at the situation and says he barely took over the guild and a big ticket job just falls into his lap. He tells the old man not to worry and that he'll send some men to handle it right now. Then he tells his goons to call for backup and get ready. Meanwhile, somewhere else, our hero's friends are worried about him. Our boy then says he already knows what's going on and is going to handle the situation. His friends say goodbye and wish him good luck. Our protagonist then heads towards his next objective. Suddenly, a black van cuts off our hero's path on purpose. Inside it is Lamthan Van's father, ready to get his revenge on the protagonist. Our boy then gets off his bike and says he's surprised he found him so quickly. With a pipe in his hand, Lamthan Van's father yells that he's going to make our hero kneel and beg for his life. The old man then runs towards the protagonist to attack him but misses the first swing. But in a humiliating way, the protagonist flicks his cigarette right into the old man's mouth. Taking advantage of the open guard, he lands a knee to the man's stomach. And to finish it off, he delivers a blow to the man's back. Fall to his knees on the ground. The old man starts complaining, saying that he paid for the goons to take out the protagonist. Suddenly, the men from the Black Dragon Guild appear behind the protagonist. The guild leader says he wants to see how tough delivery guys are these days. Lamthan Van's father tells them not to finish the protagonist quickly and to make him suffer. The guild leader then approaches and puts his hand on our hero's shoulder. He then looks at the protagonist's face and is completely terrified. Our boy then slaps him across the face, reprimanding him. The protagonist asks what happened to him in such a short time. The guild leader panics and says he didn't know it was our protagonist. Lamthan Van's father gets furious and wonders why the guild leader is defending the protagonist. Leader then gets angry and lands a kick to the old man's face. The man falls to the ground. The protagonist steps on the chest of the man lying down and tells him not to bother him anymore. The old man is terrified by the situation and immediately shuts up. Our protagonist warns him to stay away from his girlfriend because she's not his. Then our boy says goodbye to the guild members and leaves on his bike. The old man gets up furiously and starts yelling that they couldn't even handle a simple delivery guy. The guild leader says that our protagonist is not someone they can mess with. Our hero then arrives at an old building. He then says that the place is a bit creepy. Our boy grabs the delivery and heads towards the apartment door. He then knocks on the door and waits for it to be answered. The door opens and a strange-looking man answers it, and our hero. But then something happens that catches their attention inside the apartment. A woman screams for help desperately from the back of the apartment. Then another man appears and strikes her hard, telling her to shut up. The strange resident tries to play off the situation, but our protagonist asks about the woman. The man slams the door in our hero's face, and his accomplice suggests taking him out. Our boy is intrigued and wonders if it was just a coincidence. But the randoms decide to finish off the protagonist and open the door again to get him. But the protagonist is fast, and with one kick, he sends the man to the floor. Our boy then says that he was just trying to deliver food, but always ends up getting into trouble. The accomplice is shocked and wonders if our hero is some kind of martial artist. But he runs towards the protagonist to attack him with his blade. But our hero grabs his hand with ease and asks what they were doing. Without any difficulty, he lands an uppercut to the man's chin. He falls on top of the other random. Our boy then kicks down the bedroom door. He then looks inside the room and sees something surprising. A woman tied to the begs our protagonist for help. Our hero approaches her and starts to untee the ropes. He then hands his jacket to the lady to cover herself. Our boy tells her not to worry because he's already called the police and her family will be here soon. The protagonist then grabs a rope to tie up the kidnappers. The two men are tied up on the floor, and our protagonist says that today they will pay for their sins. The woman then thanks him and introduces herself as Yin Long and is surprised that he took care of the two men by himself. Suddenly, the protagonist's cell phone rings and she hands it to him to answer. Then he takes her cell phone and answers the call, and on the other end of the line, someone is furious with him. The person on the phone starts yelling at our hero, and he seems scared. Our protagonist gets annoyed because the person on the other end hung up on him. Suddenly, Yin Long's father appears with some police officers. The woman then runs to hug her father. He then hugs her and asks if she's okay and if she was hurt. Yin Long says no and points to our hero, saying that he was the one who saved her. Our boy tells the police officers to arrest the two criminals. The old man thanks our protagonist for saving his daughter and asks if he was the one who defeated the two men. Yin Long's father says he didn't expect a delivery guy to be so strong. The old man introduces himself as Yin Hung and gives our hero a business card as a thank you. Our boy takes the card and realizes the man is from the White Tiger Academy. Our protagonist thanks him and says goodbye as he has more things to do. The old man says it would be great if he could recruit our hero for his academy. Our boy then goes down to the street and heads towards his motorcycle. He then says that delivering food ends up causing a lot of trouble. Our hero gets on his bike and rides away. Then we see a commercial building. Inside the building, a man tries to console Suki from the company called Nam Nam. Suki thanks the man but says the company already has a plan and doesn't need his help. The man confesses his feelings to Suki, but she asks him to back off. He then grabs Suki's arm and insists that she be with him. She gets angry and slaps him across the face, saying she's already married and pregnant. The man is shocked by the news and can't believe it. Suddenly, our protagonist enters the room and says it looks like he has some rivals. The man is surprised to see our hero and asks who he is. She then says that he is her husband. Here is happy to be called Kuzbin by Suki. He can't believe he's being rejected. Our protagonist then tells him to leave and not to interrupt their lunch. Then they enter the office. The man is furious and says he won't give up on her so easily. Our hero opens the delivery and says that his rival is pretty weak. She explains that they don't have feelings, which is why the other guy was never a real rival for our boy. Our hero cracks a smirk, totally getting what she was trying to say. With that, she grabs her chopsticks to start digging into the meal our guy prepared for her. But out of nowhere, he grabs one of the bento boxes and starts closing it right in front of her. Shocked by his move, she asks what in the world he's doing with her food. She then yells that he's the one who got her pregnant, so he's pretty much obligated to feed her. After taking a few bites, she has to admit, his cooking is actually really good. She asks why he even works as a delivery guy, and he says that not everyone is worthy of his cooking. The heiress then gives him a suspicious look and asks if he's ever cooked for other women before. He claims he's only ever cooked for her, but clarifies it was actually for their son, which just gets her all riled up. So, she changes the subject and asks why he's not wearing his work uniform. With a smile, our hero explains that he lent his jacket to some girl he rescued earlier. In a jealous fit, she kicks him out of her office and tells him to go find this so-called girl he helped. From outside, our hero yells back that pregnant women aren't supposed to get angry. But she's not having any of it and just tells him to get lost and leave her office for good. Back in her office, she's fuming about what happened and grabs her phone with an angry look on her face. But he sends a text telling her to eat well, because he's going to go work hard for their son. With a faint smile, she invites him to have dinner at her house, in his capacity as the baby's father. Our hero reads the message and with a smile, calls her stubborn. He then thinks to himself that she could have just called him her husband instead of the baby's father. With that settled, our main character hops on his motorcycle and heads to his next destination. He speeds through the city streets so he won't be late for the family dinner. Later that night, he arrives at the luxurious mansion of his wife's family. As they walk in, her mother sees him and furiously asks why her daughter brought him back. The young woman then reveals that they got married and that this man is now her husband. Her mother is completely floored and asks if she really married a delivery boy. She replies firmly, saying that she knows exactly what she's doing with her life. Her father then cuts into the argument, telling them to stop fighting during dinner. At that moment, her brother welcomes our hero and invites him to take a seat at the table. The father tells his daughter to go get changed, and the couple heads upstairs under the watchful eyes of their relatives. Our guy's new mother-in-law argues with her son, questioning why they let her marry such a piece of trash. With a sly grin, the brother reveals he has a plan to humiliate our hero tonight. A little while later, a heavy-set man arrives and the young woman's parents invite him to sit at the table. The newcomer asks what the rush was, and the brother says he's prepared a surprise for him. Just then, our couple comes down the stairs, and the brother wonders why the heck he's there. The strange guest scolds the young woman, and she questions his presence at a family dinner. Her mother, with a fake smile, tells her daughter to sit next to the unwanted guest. The couple notices there's only one empty chair, and the girl asks why a seat is missing at the table. Her mother screams that the family table isn't for just anyone to sit down and eat with them. Our hero then questions why the other guy gets to sit, and the mother says he doesn't compare to their guest. The father then gets angry and says that whoever doesn't have a seat can just eat squatting in the corner of the room. Seeing the situation, the young woman tells her husband to take the seat, saying she'll stand in his place. Her father slams his hand on the table, furious, and orders his daughter to sit next to the other man. Our hero shoots a death glare at the guest, who starts breaking out in a cold sweat from fear. Completely terrified, the man stands up and offers his seat to our protagonist. The girl's mother is totally confused and says the guest doesn't need to give up his seat for that kind of person. But the man insists, saying that if our hero isn't worthy of their table, then he's even less worthy. Once seated, our hero calls his wife over to sit as well, since she's pregnant and can't be standing. He then serves his wife some food, telling her to eat well, leaving the entire family baffled by the scene. Seeing how things are going, her brother approaches the guest and says he has a surprise for him. Wang Han tells Suki to ignore everyone else and just enjoy dinner as he offers her some wine. Just then, an older man reveals to his accomplice that he slipped something into our hero's drink. But his partner gets all bent out of shape, yelling and asking if he was trying to drag him down with this harebrained scheme too. Seeing they were both about to drink, the older man makes a dash for it, yelling at them not to drink the spiked wine. Suki is completely floored by this revelation, and the old guy points out the culprit, who tries to weasel his way out of the accusation. Suki then shoots up from the table in a flash. In one swift move, she hurls the wine in the guy's face, calling him a shameless pig for what he tried to pull. Soaked in wine, the man is just frozen, totally speechless. Our hero, now seeing red, gets up from his chair to teach this cocky jerk a lesson. He then lands a solid punch right in the guy's mug with all his might. With the man on the ground, our protagonist warns that nobody gets to lay a hand on his woman. After the whole fiasco, she says the place is just gross, and the two finally decide to bail. A moment later, the attacker's parents show up to help their son, who's still dazed on the floor. Now inside the car, Suki asks if he's not going to explain what in the world just happened. He plays dumb, but she keeps at it, asking why that other guy was so terrified of him. With a smirk, he says some people are just stubborn and need to be roughed up a little to learn some manners. Suki then calls him out for bragging again and points out that with his social standing, marrying her is going to be a tough sell. He then replies that the rules at his house are way more intense. Just then, Wang Han's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen and goes into full panic mode, thinking he's in some seriously hot water now. A message on the screen shows a woman ordering him to show up in 10 minutes. And then we see a massive building. As the two walk toward the entrance, Suki asks who this person could possibly be that freaks him out so much. Wang Han tells her to just zip it because his family has a ton of rules, which she thinks is completely over the top. He warns her one more time to keep quiet and not say anything reckless when they get there, so she doesn't stir up any trouble. When they step into the apartment, they come face to face with a woman with short hair sitting on the couch. Our protagonist greets her, all smiles and cheer, saying how much he's missed her. We then see the woman who contacted him, smoking a cigarette with a dead, serious expression and an intimidating glare. Without missing a beat, she gives our guy a stone-cold look and simply orders him to kneel before her. To Suki's utter shock, our hero obeys instantly and gets on his knees. The woman, with the same commanding tone, then orders Suki to kneel as well. Our hero, still on his knees, explains that his partner is pregnant and therefore can't kneel. Blindsided by the news, the woman grabs Suki's arm and grills her about this supposed pregnancy. After sizing Suki up, she comes to a conclusion and clicks her tongue in annoyance. She springs up and attacks our boy with a high kick, accusing him of picking up some nasty habits overseas. Sprawled out on the floor, our hero tries to talk to her, but the pain from the hit makes it hard to get the words out. The woman then says he's gonna get what's coming to him first. And then they'll talk about what happened. Suki jumps in front of her man with her arms spread wide and yells for the other woman not to lay another finger on him. Suki then says she doesn't know their house rules, but beating up on him for no reason is totally out of line. The woman explains that the rules are simple, so Suki asks which one Wang Han broke. She then lists them off: getting married without telling them, getting her pregnant beforehand, and choosing an unworthy partner. Suki is furious at being called unworthy and asks who exactly would be the ideal woman for her brother. Our guy's sister then rattles off a list of several rich and powerful women the family had arranged for him, all of whom he rejected. Our hero then begs his sister not to provoke Suki, reminding her that she's expecting a child. But Suki isn't having any of it and tells the woman to cut the crap. With a smug look, Suki says she's figured it out, they're both just a couple of children. She accuses him of making up the whole story about powerful families just to show off for her. He tries to deny it, but Suki calls him immature, says she doesn't want her child born into this mess, and storms out. As she walks away, the protagonist yells for her not to go. Wang Han tries to go after Suki, but his sister stops him, telling him not to follow her. She explains that the girl needs some time to cool off and reveals she has a mission for him from their father. The sister shows him an object and says it belongs to a girl with whom he has a marriage contract. The protagonist is baffled and questions the arranged marriage since he's already planning to marry someone else. The woman insists it's an order from their father and he must obey, so our guy reluctantly agrees to look for this girl. We see Suki's house. Suki and her friend are talking about the situation, and Suki is still reeling from our hero's behavior. She can't believe that she, such a pure maiden, fell for a simple delivery guy. Nanan defends the protagonist, saying that if any of this is true, his identity is anything but simple. Suki then asks why she's sticking up for the delivery guy, and Nanan gets all flustered. Suki then accuses her of hiding something, which Nanan nervously denies. The redhead then starts tickling her friend, calling her a little sneak for being suspicious. Nanan then remembers the big shot she was supposed to meet, and her friend promises to get his contact info. Just then, there's a knock at the door, and they wonder who it could be. Opening the door, Nanan finds Lam Can and asks what he's doing there. Lam Can offers to help, saying he knows the big shot that Nanan wants to meet. She's surprised and asks if he really knows the company's billionaire investor. Suki gets excited about the idea, and Lam Can confirms he can take Nanan to him. The next day, our hero is frustrated because Suki isn't answering his calls. As he's smoking a cigarette, his phone buzzes. He grabs his phone, thinking it's Suki, but realizes the message isn't from her. A young woman messages that she washed his shirt, but our protagonist just replies for her to throw it out. He then wonders how he's supposed to find the person his sister sent him after. At that moment, the phone rings, and he answers it. The protagonist is in shock when he learns that an acquaintance of his nearly drowned after saving some people. Elsewhere, the girl from the text message is sad that he doesn't even want his shirt back. She then realizes she probably won't be able to meet him again, and feels pretty down about it. Just then, her father walks into the room and asks why she looks so gloomy. The old man says he knocked, and she must have something on her mind. He then informs her that the next day is a young master's birthday, and she needs to go in his place. The father explains that the party is to celebrate the fact the guy survived a drowning incident, but she refuses to go. But the older man says he was just pulling her leg and asks if she spoke to the delivery guy. The girl confirms she managed to contact the protagonist, but he didn't want the shirt back. With a thoughtful expression, her father sighs and says it seems like they just weren't meant to be. The guy kicks the woman in the stomach while his guards hold her down. Everyone can see the brutal beatdown she's getting. A young woman watches in disgust, and her companion tells her not to get involved. The attacker then stumps on her while she's on the ground. He keeps yelling at the poor woman, threatening her for daring to challenge him. We see a kick flying towards the villain's face. The powerful kick lands square on his face, sending him to the floor. The man hits the ground, completely clueless about what just happened. It was Wang Han who kicked him. With his crew, he asks the aggressor who he wants to see get roughed up. The young woman from before is shocked and thrilled. She finally recognizes our hero. The aggressor kneels before Wang Han, but even so, Wang Han signals his men to attack. He yells that they're on his turf, and then the 3 security guards charge into the fight. Our guy doesn't even flinch, but one of his guards takes the lead and clocks the villain's guard. With just one move, one of the henchmen is toast, falling to the ground completely defeated. His partner also jumps into action, finishing off another guard with a single punch. Haired friend also joins the brawl, landing a heavy kick on another goon. And the one with glasses doesn't lag behind, taking out yet another enemy with a solid punch to the face. In moments, all the security guards are on the floor, and our hero's crew just stands there, watching. The guy in the vest is terrified and asks who they are as Wang Han approaches. Our guy then lights a cigarette and starts telling a story about an old friend. He sits down and says the guy messed with the wrong people, and that really ticked him off. The villain gets angry and shouts that his family is very powerful, calling for more men. Immediately, a whole new bunch of security guards armed with batons appears at the door. But Wang Han couldn't care less, and says he'll give him one chance to surrender. The aggressor doesn't listen and orders his henchmen to attack our main character without a second thought. Our hero then gets up and says that since he didn't take the chance, it's now too late. Then, he smashes a chair right in the villain's face. The force of the impact sends him flying, making him crash through the table behind him. Lying on the ground, the aggressor curses our hero while wincing in pain. Wang Han then tells him he had his chance, but now there's no going back. Without giving him time to breathe, our hero lands a kick right in the middle of the man's face. The aggressor falls to the floor, already knocked out, and Wang Han wonders where all this trash came from to get in his way. At that moment, old man with a mustache named Chu Hung Ho shows up with a master by his side. Seeing his father there, the villain desperately begs for help. Chu Hung then points and orders his master to mess up everyone there, with no mercy. The young woman gets scared and warns that the old man is a very strong master and our hero is in danger. The master then lunges at our guy with a super fast and powerful fiery strike. But Wang Han doesn't even move and someone stops the old man's attack with just one hand, leaving him completely jaw-dropped. The master is in shock, unable to understand how his attack was stopped. Before he could do anything, our hero's chubby friend says he'll take care of this one. And with a single move, he grabs the old man's head and effortlessly slams him to the ground. Our protagonist's friend puts the master right to sleep. Chu Hung is horrified to see his strongest master defeated with a single blow. The master struggles to get up, not understanding what just happened. Seeing he got the short end of the stick, he changes his tune and suggests they talk, since they seem to be friends. But our protagonist with a serious face says his only request is for his ungrateful son. Chu Hung then tries to bribe him, offering 100,000 to forget the whole mess. Our guy gets furious at the offer and smashes a table, yelling that a life doesn't have a price tag. He then gets closer and asks if the Chu family has so much money that they can be this arrogant. The old man with the mustache laughs and says he has more cash than he could ever dream of and that a mechanic is worthless. Our hero then threatens to bankrupt the Chu family, and the old man laughs in disbelief, so the protagonist asks his friend to make a call. The friend then makes a call and orders all of the Chu family's business in the city to be cancelled, leaving the old man in shock. Chu Hung laughs nervously and asks if they're putting on a play, because he can't believe it. In the middle of the conversation, a man runs in desperately, yelling that he has terrible news for Chu Hung. He then explains that all their business partners have cancelled their contracts, and the family's companies have been shut down. Our hero's friend gives a wink, confirming he was the one behind the whole thing. Seeing the young man's power, Chu Hung realizes the mistake he made and immediately bows, asking for forgiveness. He even orders his son to kneel and beg for pardon, but the kid insists it was all a misunderstanding. Wang Han then steps on him and asks what misunderstanding he's talking about. The father tries to play one last card and threatens him, saying his brother-in-law is a very powerful military officer. Our protagonist doesn't flinch and just asks his friend to make another call. The friend obeys and, on the phone, requests a full investigation into the Chu family. Out of patience, our guy's team starts dragging the son out of the restaurant. The villain then screams for his father to call his uncle, and the old man agrees to make the call immediately. With a victorious smile on his face, he takes out his phone and says he's calling his relative right now. But on the other end of the line, the man yells furiously that they messed with some very important people from the army. He also warns that because of his screw-up, Chu Hung is under investigation and has lost his position, leaving the old man in shock. Elsewhere, we now see a giant and very well-kept cemetery. And here in this cemetery, we see the grave of the friend our hero talked so much about. They then bring the scumbag who caused it all and force him to kneel in front of the headstone. The guy still tries to argue, but Wang Han stumps him to the ground without a shred of pity. Our hero then grabs him and yells for him to apologize to his brother who passed away. And without ceremony, he slams the villain's head into the ground with all his might. With the guy apologizing, Wang Han and his friends finally pay their respects. We see Suki arriving to visit her grandmother's grave. She tells her that she got married and is pregnant, but her family doesn't approve because her husband is a delivery guy. The young woman also says he hired actors to pretend to be rich and that all men are the same. But she changes the subject and talks about a good person who helped her in a tough time. She leaves her grandmother's favorite foods there as an offering. Suddenly it starts to rain and Suki says her goodbyes, saying she needs to leave. A car then pulls up nearby, and a voice calls for her to get in before the rain gets worse. Once inside the car, she tells the driver to hurry while her brother argues with another girl. But halfway there, a black limousine passes and cuts off Suki's car. Suki's brother gets furious and yells, asking who dares to block their car. Suddenly, several men in suits get out of the limousine holding black umbrellas. They approach her hero and respectfully call him young master. Wang Han then talks about his deceased friend's family and says he will take care of everything. Inside the car, Suki's friend points and asks if that isn't Wang Han. Suki is surprised and wonders what her husband would be doing there. At that same moment, one of our hero's powerful friends opens the car door for him. The blonde then asks who the man is, but Suki has no idea. Her brother, however, seems to recognize the man, and his jaw hits the floor. Wang Han then gets in the car and tells everyone to head to his friend's house first. The friend then insists that Suki call him, as it must be some kind of mistake. But Suki refuses, saying she won't call because he's a nobody. Her brother agrees, and the friend takes the opportunity to ask about the big shot Suki was supposed to meet. With a smug smile, the guy confirms that everything is already arranged for the meeting. He then tells her that the next day he will take her to meet this big shot. They then arrive in a more humble neighborhood and stop in front of an old building where an old man is dozing off. The group gets out of the car, and our hero's friend confirms they've arrived at the right place. Wang Han then approaches the elderly man and asks if this is his late friend's house. The old man wakes up confused and asks who he's talking about, as he doesn't know anyone by that name. Our protagonist then says his friend's real name, which is Tran Kong. The old man finally recognizes it and points to the third floor, but asks if they're there for the inheritance. He then laments the young man's passing and explains that his relatives took over the house, so they enter the building. As they go up the stairs, they see a little girl sitting alone in the hallway and wonder what she's doing there. Our hero's friend gets angry that someone took the house, so Wang Han asks if this is Tran Kong's home. The little girl says yes, but her father went to a very faraway place and isn't there anymore. The whole team is shocked by the revelation, and the friend asks if Tran Kong was her father. Our protagonist then kneels down and asks why she's outside, and the girl says her aunt and uncle won't let her in. She then points to a simple cardboard box on the floor and says that's her new home now. The friend with glasses is furious at the cruelty, and Wang Han can't believe they'd let a child live like this. Without a second thought, our protagonist's friend runs and kicks the door with all his might. The door flies open, revealing a couple enjoying a seafood feast, not caring about anything. The man then stands up furiously and yells, asking who they are to break down his door like that. Wang Han walks in with the little girl by his side and asks, since when this house belongs to him. The freeloader says the house is his now and threatens to call the police, but our hero confronts him. Our guy then calls him an animal and, without thinking twice, lands a knee right in the man's stomach. The impact sends the scumbag flying, knocking the table over while the woman screams desperately for help. Wang Han then takes the girl's hand and tells his friend to show these two how things work. Our hero's friends accept the order and get ready to teach the wicked relatives a lesson. Without wasting time, the bald one lands a punch right in the middle of the uncle's face, who screams for help. After the beatdown, the couple begs for forgiveness and our hero asks the girl's name, which is Kwa Kwa. The friend with glasses then comments that her situation was terrible and she wouldn't have survived much longer there. Our protagonist then asks if Kwa Kwa wants to come live with them, and the little girl accepts immediately. Wang Han tries to pass the responsibility to his friend, but he says he doesn't know how to take care of kids. Our guy gets flustered when the little girl comes closer and grabs his clothes, showing that she trusts him. Seeing this, the friend takes the opportunity and tells Kwa Kwa to call Wang Han her adoptive father, and she does so right away. Our hero is surprised but accepts the new responsibility of caring for his late friend's daughter. The next day, we see they've already moved into a new and much more comfortable apartment. Now, Wang Han is making breakfast for Kwa Kwa and tells her to eat so they can go to school. While they're eating peacefully, our protagonist's cell phone starts ringing, getting his attention. On the screen, we see a message for Suki, inviting her to eat, but she refuses and tells him not to contact her anymore. He complains about her temper, but Kwa Kwa interrupts him, saying she's finished eating. Wang Han then says he's going to get ready so he can take her to school. Arriving at the new school, we see it's a huge and very fancy place for the little girl to study. As they walk, our hero explains that this is the best school and that she needs to try very hard. They then enter the principal's office, where they are greeted with great respect and a warm welcome. The principal introduces himself and also the lady beside him, who will be Kwa Kwa's new teacher. But upon seeing the teacher, Wang Han's jaw drops because he recognizes her from somewhere. The woman recognizes him too and is overjoyed to see him again after so long. Our protagonist then asks if she's really the teacher, and the woman wants to know if Kwa Kwa is his daughter. With a proud smile, our hero confirms that she is and introduces the little one as his beloved daughter. Seeing that they know each other, the principal asks the teacher to take the girl to the classroom, but the look on the woman's face wasn't very happy. Wang Han then says goodbye as he needs to go to work, leaving Kwa Kwa in the teacher's care. Then the protagonist leaves, dropping his new daughter off at school. Our guy then promises he'll be back to pick her up as soon as class is over. The teacher then asks if he's not the biological father, and Kwa Kwa explains that her real dad passed away. Understanding the situation, the teacher consoles the girl and invites her to see her new classroom. Outside, Wang Han gets on his motorcycle and thinks that being a dad is not going to be easy at all. But suddenly his phone rings and a mysterious female voice asks if he remembers her. Our protagonist recognizes her and asks in surprise how she got his number. The woman then informs him that she will see him the next day, but he thinks to himself that he's married and Suki would be sad. The woman then confirms his name over the phone and seems quite annoyed with our hero. On the other end, the woman says she's furious that Suki stole her man. But before he could answer, the girl hangs up on him without any further explanation. The very next day, our guy takes little Kwa Kwa to school and says goodbye to her. He then thinks that he needs to warn Suki about something since she's pregnant. He then sends a message to his wife, warning her about a suspicious woman. After sending the warning, he lights a cigarette and complains that women are complicated. Our hero then gets on his bike and speeds off because he's already late for his next delivery. He then arrives at a giant and very luxurious mansion to do his job. Wang Han is quite impressed by the size and wealth of the place. He then rings the doorbell and announces that the order has finally arrived. He waits at the door holding the package and wishes the customer a good meal. But when the door opens, he sees that the owner of the house is Suki. Our protagonist cracks a smile and thinks that the world is indeed a very small place. But Suki remains indifferent and says it's just a delivery, while another woman asks who's at the door. The friend then asks Suki if she knows the delivery guy, and she says they were schoolmates. The gray-haired girl introduces herself and says she also studied with them, but doesn't remember our hero. Wang Han then makes up a name and says he was a terrible student, which is why no one remembers him. A guy then approaches, and Suki's friend explains the situation, but the guy says he doesn't remember anyone with that name. The man then stares down our protagonist and asks how a classmate of theirs ended up as a simple delivery guy. He then turns to Suki and asks why she knows people like that, but she tells him to shut up. The guy then gives a lecture on social classes and says friendships like that only bring trouble. Losing his patience, he asks why our hero is still there and takes out some cash. With an arrogant smile, he offers 200 as a tip for our protagonist to leave. Wang Han asks if that's all, and the guy gets annoyed, saying that in the old days, he would have slapped him. But our hero takes the money with a smile and thanks the boss for his generosity. The man then takes the pizza and tells his goddess that he bought it for her. At that moment, another girl appears and recognizes our hero as a great master, leaving the guy confused. Wang Han recognizes her and comments that the world is truly small for them to meet again. The guy asks if she knows him, and the woman confirms that she does, as he was the man who saved her life. The woman then invites him for a drink, but he declines because he has to work, while Suki looks on jealously. The guy in the suit scoffs at him, saying people like him need the money, and the woman defends him. Our hero then tries to leave, but the girl runs after him and calls for him to wait. She then asks for a ride since she also needs to go to class and doesn't know how to drive. The guy tries to stop her, saying his motorcycle is dangerous and offers his Porsche instead. But the woman insists and stands by our guy, who glances quickly at Suki. With her arms crossed, Suki looks irritated but turns her head away as if giving permission. Wang Han then agrees, and the two of them get on the motorcycle, waving to the others left behind. And so they ride off, leaving Suki and her friends looking completely dumbfounded back at the mansion. The guy in the suit then tries to invite Suki to eat, but she is visibly annoyed. She says she has work to do and leaves, refusing the guy's offer of a ride, leaving him confused. Far away, our protagonist speeds through the city on his motorcycle with the girl on the back. With her hugging him from behind, he asks if he's going too fast for her. But she says no and that he's a very good driver, seeming to enjoy the ride. Sudden red sports car appears out of nowhere beside them. It was Suki in the car, and she tells the girl to get in, but the woman refuses the invitation. Wang Han then suggests she go, as he doesn't want to upset the mother of his child, and she gets the hint. The girl thanks him and invites him out, but our hero says he needs to work. She insists, but he dodges the question and says he has to go because he has more deliveries to make. Then our protagonist speeds off and leaves while the woman waves goodbye. Alone on the road, our hero thinks that women are really very difficult to understand. After a long day, our hero finally picks up little Kwa from school. He then asks if the little girl is hungry, and she replies that she loves his cooking. But when they get home, they see a pair of high heels on the floor, and Wang Han immediately gets suspicious. With the door slightly ajar, he realizes there's definitely someone inside his apartment. Suddenly, a woman in a towel who looks a lot like Suki appears and asks why he took so long to get back. Wang Han covers Kwa's eyes and tells the woman to get dressed because there's a child there. The woman then notices the girl and is completely confused, asking who that little girl is. Our protagonist then explains that she is his daughter and that he is already a married man. But the crazy woman ignores everything and approaches the little one, asking Kwa to call her mum. Wang Han gets furious and yells, asking what kind of nonsense she's spouting. He then pushes her away and warns her not to corrupt the child with her craziness. The woman then tells the little one that if she is her father's wife, then she is her mother. Out of patience, our hero tells Kwa to go to her room and do her homework. The little girl obeys and goes to her room, leaving the two of them alone to sort out their drama. As soon as the girl leaves, the woman grabs our hero by his family jewels and yells that he got married behind her back. In pain, our hero complains about the low blow he just took from the woman. But she doesn't care and kicks him angrily, asking if he even remembers her. Wang Han then yells at the crazy lady to get dressed once and for all. The woman sits on the couch and accuses him of marrying another woman behind her back. Our guy then says he's already married and asks her to stop this nonsense. Now dressed, she lights a cigarette and says she knows he only got married because the other woman got pregnant. Our hero then changes the subject and asks what she came to the city for. The woman then says she came for 2 reasons, one of them being to find him. Our protagonist then realizes she was supposed to meet his wife and is relieved she doesn't know. He then invites her to eat, as little Kwa must be very hungry. The woman who looks like Suki then asks if he's become a full-time family man now. Suddenly, she grabs him again, and he gets startled, asking what she's doing. The woman then questions why he treats her so coldly, but is different with other women. At that moment, Kwa comes out of her room and says she's hungry and wants to eat. But the little one is shocked and covers her eyes when she sees the awkward scene between the two. Our hero then gets annoyed and tells the woman to stop making a scene and go eat. Seeing that she won't go, he takes Kwa's hand and says the two of them will go alone. But the woman gives a confident smile and says that sooner or later, he will be hers. So our hero takes the little one and the woman to a fancy restaurant in the city. Once there, the woman tells Kwa to eat whatever she wants because she's paying for everything. She then insists that the little girl call her adoptive mom, and the girl agrees. The waiter takes them to a VIP room and asks if they are satisfied with the spot. The woman then makes a joke, and Wang Han scolds her for talking nonsense in front of the child. Meanwhile, in another room, a boss asks his henchman about an investigation. The man says he hasn't found the blueprints yet, but knows it has something to do with a certain Lam Than van. He also says that Tokai's daughter is in charge, and that she's dangerous because she sets people up. The boss gets furious and says that Tokai is just a delivery guy, and that they're using his daughter to steal the project. The henchman then praises the boss's plan to resolve this whole mess. But suddenly, the boss recognizes a familiar face and thinks he's seen that guy somewhere before. He then wonders what Takei's husband is doing there and decides to go take a look himself. From a distance, a man watches the trio dining peacefully in the restaurant's VIP room. The woman treats Kwa Koi with great affection and offers the little one a piece of chicken. The man spying cracks a malicious grin and thinks that the situation is about to get very interesting. After dinner, the woman asks if the little one liked the food and promises to take her again. Back at the MC's place, Suki arrives and finds the silence strange, wondering if Wang Han isn't in the apartment. The protagonist, along with his female companion in Kuokua, arrives at the apartment elevator. But then Suki is suddenly startled by the sight of the protagonist and his company. The MC's friend then stares at Suki and asks if she's the wife, but the woman says that she's our hero's wife. Wang Han gets awkward and makes up a story that she's his cousin who's working in the city. But Suki isn't convinced and doesn't buy their story, and she simply decides to leave. Our guy still tries to smooth things over and suggests they eat something before they talk. The other woman then questions why they don't live together if they're married. Suki then comes back, ignores the question, and tells the girl to open the door because they are indeed going to eat. With the two of them shooting daggers at each other with their eyes, our hero thinks this looks like a battlefield. Wang Han then tells Kwa Kwa to do her homework and says he'll cook for everyone. Already inside the apartment, the woman asks in surprise since when he knew how to cook. Suki is happy that she's already tried his food, but the friend says she wants to try it too. Our protagonist complains because she just ate and asks if she wants to eat again already. The girl then makes a scene, saying she's hungry again. Out of patience, Suki tells the freeloader to stop her act and be more serious. She then offers a bottle of water, saying she must have eaten a lot and needs to hydrate. Suki says that based on her appearance, the other woman should call her Mom. But the woman says she's younger than her. The girl then ignores her and yells for Wang Han that she's hungry, and he replies that the food is almost ready. Our hero then brings out a bowl of noodles and tells Suki to eat up. Suki stares at the plate of food excited. The freeloader then tries to take Suki's food, but Wang Han tells her to shut up. Not caring about the fight, Suki just starts eating the noodles. She compliments the food, and our hero asks her to get some for the other one too. The woman then says she'll eat everything he prepares, making Suki irritated. Kwa then appears and asks if someone can read her a story since she's finished her homework. The woman seizes the opportunity and calls her over, saying she'll read to her. The little one thanks her and calls her Kanti, but the woman insists she call her Mum. She even tries to bribe the girl with candy, but Kwa calls her Auntie again. Suki then intervenes and asks the freeloader not to make things difficult for the child. She then calls Kwa over to her with a gentle smile on her face. She asks the little one to call her Mum. 2. Little Kwa is speechless and doesn't know what to do with the two women. She then looks to her adoptive father, seeking an answer to this situation. Suki then calls her to go to bed and says she'll tell her a story. As they walk away, Suki tells the other woman to enjoy her meal. Wang Han then serves the food to the girl and tells her to eat it all. The woman asks if he's not going to sleep, and he says he'll stay on the couch. She then gets confused and asks why they don't sleep together if they're married. Our hero lights a cigarette and tells the freeloader to stop talking and go to sleep. The Suki then appears and, with a firm voice, tells Wang Han to go to the bedroom. The other woman is surprised by his obedience as she watches him go to the room. The next morning, we see the sun rising over our protagonist's building. Wang Han starts his day by exercising on his apartment balcony. Suki then appears, and he tells her that breakfast is on the table for her. But she refuses the food and says she needs to go to work because she has a project. Our hero offers to take her, but Suki says she'll go alone and that he should take Kwa to school. She then asks him to pick her up from work later, but then immediately dismisses his help. Our protagonist gives a slight smile, realizing she's still very angry. In the car, Suki gets a call saying there's a huge problem and their project has been halted. She becomes desperate and asks why, while the person tells her to check the link they sent. The news shows pictures of him with the other woman and Kwa with a sensationalist headline about the affair. Suki is furious with the news and wonders which scumbag is behind this setup. Meanwhile, the other woman, our hero's friend, warns him that his wife is in trouble. She then insists that he see the news for himself if he doesn't believe her. Upon reading the article, the protagonist becomes enraged and realizes someone is framing Suki. Without wasting a moment, he picks up the phone and calls one of his contacts to solve the problem. Elsewhere in the city, we see a luxurious hotel where the real culprit is. A woman asks a man in bed why he's so happy. The guy boasts, saying he's in a great mood because he got what he wanted. He then celebrates that Suki is going to lose control of the company because of the scandal. But suddenly, the hotel room door is kicked in, and the man yells, asking who broke in. At the door, 3 men with unfriendly faces appear, ready for action. The villain gets a shock when he recognizes the tattooed mountain of a man staring at him with hatred. The tattooed man then tells him to get dressed because some important people will want to talk to him. Losing his patience, the big guy yells at the man to stop messing around and obey immediately. Then our hero appears, and his henchman informs him that the person responsible for the setup has been captured. Suddenly, the man appears and recognizes our hero on the spot. But the villain doesn't even notice and yells at Wang Han, asking why a delivery guy is there. He continues to yell, having no idea who he's messing with. Without even responding, our protagonist simply grabs a vase that was on the table. And with a swift motion, he smashes the object over the scumbag's head, who doesn't even react. With a bleeding mouth, the guy is shocked and can't believe he was hit by a delivery guy. Wang Han then lands a powerful slap right across the man's face. The impact is so strong that the villain goes flying and falls to the ground, already bruised and battered. Our hero then grabs him by the collar of his shirt and lifts him off the ground effortlessly. He then yells and asks how he dared to do that to Suki, and the guy says she doesn't deserve anything. Upon hearing that, our protagonist's eyes glow with rage, and he prepares for the next attack. And with a direct punch, he knocks the villain to the ground once more, leaving him stunned. Desperate, the man tries to bribe the tattooed henchman, offering double for him to take out Wang Han. The big guy gets furious at the offer and kicks the jerk in the face for his audacity. The friend then asks what to do, and Wang Han tells him to expose the villain and clear Suki's name. The tattooed man then holds him and yells at him to do as he's told without complaining. But the guy still insists and asks for help to get rid of the delivery guy who beat him up. Out of patience, the big guy lands another slap and tells him to shut up for good. Scared, the villain finally gives in and promises to correct the fake news immediately. With the situation resolved, our hero watches as his friend asks if he's learned his lesson. At Suki's company, the atmosphere is very heavy and full of tension. The assistant reports that the news agency wants 80,000 to take the article down. Suddenly, two old men burst in yelling, accusing Suki of tarnishing the family name. She tries to defend herself and says the story isn't what they think it is. But the old men ignore her and say they've already called someone else to solve the problem. Suki gets furious, realizing it's all a setup to remove her from power. They then reveal their plan and say they'll fix everything if she gives up control of the company. Another man then says she just got lucky and that the project was theirs from the beginning. Suki then agrees and says she will hand over power because she knows she's innocent and the truth will come out. With the decision made, the old man bangs his cane on the floor. The old man says she's too young and needs to hand over power because the project is too important. But suddenly, the secretary they called enters the room with a very unfriendly look on her face. The assistant then announces her arrival, and the old men greet her with great respect. The man then apologizes for the scandal and says that Suki will resolve everything as quickly as possible. The old man then yells and asks where she's going to get that kind of money to fix this mess. But at that moment, the assistant announces that all the negative news has already been dealt with. Suki is in shock, not understanding how it was resolved so quickly. The men then check their phones and see that everything has been deleted, wondering who did it. The woman then says that since everything is resolved, the project still belongs to Suki. She then says her goodbyes, stating she has better things to do and is leaving. Suki then calls out to her and asks her to wait because she wants to understand what's going on. Ukiciu seizes the opportunity and asks if she can meet the head of the company. The executive replies that she can't make that call since she doesn't know what kind of person he is. With that, the woman says her goodbyes and leaves, abandoning the girl with her relatives. Her family members walk off, complaining that the young woman ruined everyone's fortune. Now alone, Ukiciu pulls out her phone, wondering who really helped her with everything. She's then shocked to see a news story about a delivery guy who was fired over an alleged affair. The scene then shifts to the front of the delivery center, where the young man works. A moment later, Wang Han speeds in on his red motorcycle. Our protagonist then asks a coworker for a charger because his phone is dead. His chubby colleague warns him, saying he's in hot water and even made the news. Wang Han just shrugs off the gossip, but the guy tells him he's been fired. With a confident smirk, our protagonist questions who would have the guts to fire him. At that exact moment, the manager appears, coughing to get everyone's attention. The man says that because of the affair, the company's image took a hit, and they decided to let him go. Wang Han gets ticked off, arguing that the news is fake and the media has already cleared everything up. The manager explains that there's nothing he can do about the company's decision. With that, he offers him a referral to his cousin's security company. Offering some advice, the man says it's normal to go for rich, beautiful women. However, he points out that the young man needs to rely on himself and himself alone. Seeing the situation, he hands over a business card with his cousin's number. Wang Ji-han then thanks the man for the help. His coworkers say their goodbyes with some reluctance. They tell our protagonist to stop showing off so much at his new job. Wang Han gets the hint and offers a cigarette to the two guys. Just then, a young woman asks if anyone there knows him. A moment later, a beautiful woman appears and calls his name excitedly. His chubby coworker is completely stunned to see another pretty girl looking for him. Our protagonist recognizes her as Teacher Xia and asks what she's doing there. The young woman explains that his phone was off, so she asked a friend where she could find him. Wonmo wonders if she came all this way for a specific reason. The teacher then reveals that it's actually her father who wants to talk to him. Since he was on his way out anyway, our protagonist agrees to go with the young woman. His colleagues watch the two leave and comment that they must be looking for some payback. The manager kicks the employee, telling him to get back to work immediately. At that instant, a black luxury pulls up right in front of the delivery center. The guys are shocked by another fancy car and wonder why so many have been showing up lately. A second later, a stunning woman steps out of the vehicle and asks where she can find Wang Gai Han. His coworkers' jaws drop at her beauty, and one of them asks what her relationship is with their friend. With an air of superiority, the woman claims to be his wife and says she came to pick him up to go home. The delivery guys go into a full-blown panic, yelling about another wife and how their friend is the man. Faced with the situation, one of the guys points in the direction our protagonist went and says he's already left. The woman gets visibly annoyed that he slipped away and grumbles that the scoundrel is a fast runner. Meanwhile, Wang Han is riding his motorcycle with Teacher Xia on the back, who guides him through the city streets. Following her directions, they finally arrive at a huge, traditional martial arts school. After they get off the bike, the young woman leads him inside, informing him that her father is upstairs. Inside, a muscular man named Kang Hongji is surprised by the young woman's sudden arrival. She then introduces Wang Han to Kang, saying she brought him to meet her father. The teacher quickly clarifies that our protagonist isn't a disciple, but the fighter her father hired. Kang underestimates our hero, saying he wouldn't last a single slap from him, and he asks if the master is doing okay. The woman gets annoyed by Kang's tone and tries to get past him to see her father, but the man blocks her way. The man says the master is busy but invites her to a show. She refuses, as she already has plans with our protagonist for the weekend. With that, the young woman takes Wang Hanen's hand and tells the brute to get out of the way. She then pulls him by the hand to go up the stairs, while the other guy watches with rage. A special focus shot shows their hands intertwined as they go up. With a furious look, the man swears he's going to destroy our protagonist for stealing his woman. Arriving in the room, the young woman announces to her father that Wang Han is here. Her father stands up and scolds her for not giving him a heads up about the important visit so he could have received them properly. Master Xia warmly greets our protagonist and invites him to sit down. During the handshake, an aura of power emanates, showing the strength of both men. The man is impressed with Wang Yan's inner strength, who responds with humility. Given the situation, the master introduces the young man to his friend Liu, saying he saved his daughter. Without beating around the bush, the host invites him to be his fighter and offers 5% of the gym's shares. The young woman tries to say he doesn't need money, but our hero cuts her off and says he's unemployed. Master Xia laughs at his honesty and offers a salary of 50,000 a month. With a satisfied smile, Wang Han promptly accepts the offer. His friend Liu congratulates Master Xia on the great hire of the new fighter. The host offers to show our protagonist around the place, who accepts the invitation. The scene cuts to a blue sky, signaling a new moment at the martial arts school. Arriving at the training courtyard, the master gathers all his disciples for an introduction. He then introduces Wang Han as the new instructor, and our protagonist humbly introduces himself. Kang and the other students doubt him because of his physique and ask what martial art he practices. The brute sarcastically challenges him to teach him something, and Wang Han says he knows a little bit of everything. From there, our protagonist lists an impressive number of fighting styles he has mastered. Annoyed by the display, Kang accuses him of showing off, but he retorts that he can handle anything. The other students agree with the brute and ask for a demonstration, thinking it's all talk. Teacher Xia intervenes and scolds Kang for picking on a newcomer, but he says a master can't be a coward. The other disciples support the idea and ask for a fight to test the new instructor's skills. Seeing the situation, Master Xia asks Wang Han to show everyone what he's made of, and he agrees. Kang prepares for combat and warns that he can be merciless, but that no one's going to be carried out of there. With a confident smile, our protagonist replies that he's merciless too and gets into a fighting stance. Kang then proposes a bold wager and challenges our protagonist to accept the terms. Wang Han replies that the decision is up to the teacher, who asks what happens if he loses. With an air of superiority, the brute laughs and says if he's defeated, the guy can ask for whatever he wants. Seeing her chance, the young woman demands that if he loses, he has to give them the show tickets. The fighter asks the master what to do if he seriously injures our protagonist during the fight. The crowd makes way for the showdown as Kang warns that he won't go easy on him at all. With a determined look, the big guy prepares to attack with everything he's got. Without wasting any time, the man lunges forward with a powerful punch to test his opponent. To everyone's surprise, Wang Han blocks the blow with one hand effortlessly. Right after, our protagonist counters with a precise strike to his opponent's neck. The impact of the blow is visible, leaving the brute completely stunned. Seizing the opening, he lands a solid knee strike to his rival's stomach. After knocking him down, our hero comments that the speed was good, but it lacked power. On the ground, the man gasps for air while the young woman praises the guy's incredible performance. The master then reveals that he only used 30% of his strength to avoid sending the student to the hospital. Furious on the ground, Kang feels completely humiliated by the crushing defeat. In a cowardly move, he gets up and attacks Wang Han from behind as the teacher screams a warning. The brute grabs him in a bear hug, yelling that he's going to finish him, leaving the young woman in shock. Without the slightest effort, our protagonist flips him over his shoulder and slams him violently to the ground. The young woman scolds him for the dirty move, but the man says that being merciful to the enemy is being cruel to yourself. Seeing this, she complains to her father about the student's lack of ethics, but the master says nothing. With a victorious air, the guy gets up, saying the winner is king and the loser is the villain. He then tries to stomp on Wang Han's head, telling him to eat dirt. Our protagonist dodges with incredible agility, and the big guy is surprised by the move. The fighter gets extremely irritated when he realizes that all his opponent is doing is defending. With that, he yells that the guy only knows how to hide and run, and he charges at him again. Don dodges another punch and calmly says his rival's strikes are too slow. Therefore, he decides to teach him a lesson about how speed is unbeatable in martial arts. The man becomes enraged and tells him to stop talking and fight, leaping into a powerful attack. Our protagonist moves so fast he creates afterimages, and the brute yells in frustration. With a smirk, Wang Han says his opponent is too slow and asks if that's all he's got. The brute is possessed with rage and screams that he's trained for 15 years, lunging forward with the intent to end it all. Master Xia and his friend are shocked because the man is using a fatal blow aimed straight at the heart. Teacher Xia screams Wang Han's name, fearing the worst. But our protagonist appears behind Kang like a ghost, leaving the big guy frozen. Repeating that his opponent is too slow, he moves with absurd speed. Right after, Wang Han lands a devastating kick right to his opponent's face, knocking him out instantly. Everyone is in shock at the one-hit knockout, and Teacher Xia celebrates the victory. She runs to hug our hero's arm, saying he was simply amazing. Impressed, the master's friend says he struck gold, and that the school will prosper with this son-in-law. Wang Han apologizes for hurting the student, but the master says it was the guy's own fault and asks who his teacher was. He says he never had formal training, and the master invites him to chat while he calls for an ambulance for the loser. At that moment, our protagonist checks his phone and remembers he needs to bring food to his mother and son. He notices he's received a message from Sukisue. She offers him a 10,000 a month job, but he refuses, saying he found one for 50,000, and she calls him unrealistic. Our protagonist then wonders if Sukisue still doesn't believe him. He sends a picture of the contract, and she replies with a simple, "Very good." He then thanks her and offers to bring her food, but she declines, saying she's going to meet someone important. This makes Won-hen curious, wondering who this special person could be. He asks if it's a man, and she says it's just the big boss from the project, thanking her in person. Our protagonist immediately remembers that he was the one who gave her the project and realizes his wife might be getting tricked. He hops on his bike and calls someone, asking for Sukisue's location. The person on the other end thinks it's a joke, but Wo Di-han insists, telling her to hurry. A moment later, a female voice informs him that his wife is out drinking with another guy. The informant adds that the man put something in Sukisue's drink. Hearing that, our protagonist explodes in fury and unleashes an aura of power. He then guns his motorcycle, promising that whoever is responsible for this is going to regret it. Our protagonist tears through the city streets at top speed to save her. The scene quickly cuts to a blue sky, indicating he's nearing his destination. Finally, he stops in front of a massive, luxurious hotel where his wife is in danger. In the hotel rooms, Sukisue is passed out on the bed while a man watches her with ill intentions. The scumbag reveals he put something in her drink to make sure she couldn't resist. With a disgusting smile, he prepares to take advantage of the completely defenseless young woman. The creep even grabs his phone, planning to film everything to blackmail Sukisue and humiliate her husband. He gets closer and closer, saying the show is about to begin. At that exact moment, the door flies off its hinges from a violent kick by our protagonist. The man complains about the interruption and turns to see Won Gi-han standing there, ready to fight. Without a second thought, our protagonist grabs him by the hair and calls him an animal for what he tried to do. The attacker panics, but before he can react, he's brutally thrown across the room. With pure fury in his eyes, Won Gi-han prepares to teach the man a lesson he'll never forget. He then rushes forward and lands a devastating punch right in the middle of the scumbag's face. The blow is so powerful that the man is left completely dazed and disoriented from the pain. Even so, the guy tries to fight back with a punch, but our hero dodges with incredible ease. Seizing the opening, Won Gi-han lands a powerful blow on his back, sending him flying forward. The force of the impact is so great that the man is launched out of the hotel window, shattering the glass. Lying on the ground, the man tries to use his powerful grandfather's name and offers Won Gi-han money to stop. But our protagonist couldn't care less about his threats and prepares another blow with his foot. With his face all battered, the attacker threatens to wipe out our hero's entire family. Won-hen steps on his chest and asks if he thinks he'll survive today, while the guy offers $1 million. The pressure increases, and the man can only groan in pain, unable to do anything else. Just then, he hears Sukisue complaining about being hot and realizes the drug is starting to take effect. Seeing his wife in danger, our protagonist becomes even more furious and kicks the scumbag again. After neutralizing the threat, he goes to the bed to help a delirious Sukisue. Crawling on the floor, the attacker grabs his phone and desperately calls his grandfather for help. Suddenly, a huge shadow falls over the man, leaving him terrified of what's to come. Before he can say another word, Won Gi-han precisely kicks the phone out of his hand. The scene shifts to another hotel room where our protagonist is sitting calmly. A moment later, an older man in a suit arrives and introduces himself to the young master. Our protagonist gives him an indifferent look and asks if he's the guy's so-called powerful grandfather. To everyone's surprise, the grandfather bows and apologizes while his grandson yells at him to attack Won Gi-han. The grandson panics and asks his grandfather why he came alone. Without warning, the old man strikes his grandson with his cane, asking if he's trying to get him killed. He continues to beat the young man forcefully, yelling at him to shut his mouth once and for all. Right after, the grandfather bows and tells the young master to decide what to do with the animal. The attacker is in total shock to hear his own grandfather call our protagonist, young master. With a cigarette in his mouth, Won Gi-han reminds old man Lin about the rules of their sect. The law is clear: anyone who commits this type of crime must receive a severe punishment. The grandfather then says that his grandson has completely dishonored the Lin family name. Given the situation, the old man himself raises his cane to punish his grandson personally. With a scream of pain, the young man receives the sex punishment right in his private parts. In another room, Sukisue wakes up dazed, with no idea how she got there. A friend enters the room and asks where that scumbag Lin Jingping is. She asks if he did anything, but Sukisue only remembers someone saving her from him. Her friend says the important thing is that she's okay and tells her it's time to leave. But as she gets up, the young woman notices a strange object on the bed and asks what it is. Sukisue picks up the object and thinks she's seen it before, and her friend asks if her beloved left it behind. She then looks at the small sphere and confirms it must belong to whoever saved her. Determined to find the truth, she asks her friend to help her find her mysterious hero. Meanwhile, our protagonist enters the empty room and imagines how scared his wife must have been. With that, he decides he needs to settle things with the old man, quickly to avoid more trouble. Suddenly, Won Gi-han realizes his beads are missing and fears he might have lost them at the gym. The scene changes to the attacker with his grandfather, who asks how a simple delivery guy left him in this state. The young man explains that Won Gi-han isn't just anyone and has ties to the Black Dragon group. A fat man present scoffs, saying that this so-called group is nothing special. The grandfather asks what the plan is, and the man suggests that with Sukisue's demise, the power will return to him. The old man's grandson is confused and doesn't quite understand what Master Kyun means. This Master Kyun says that anyone who gets in the Kyun family's way is done for and orders them to take her out. He smiles wickedly and says the sooner they do it, the better. Thirsty for revenge, the attacker gets excited and says he'll find someone today. Far away, our protagonist is seen walking peacefully with a child near his home. Back at his house, our protagonist asks little Glogo to do her homework while he goes to make dinner. The girl's godmother promptly offers to help the little one with her school lessons. Our protagonist then picks up his phone and wonders if Su has eaten, as she must have been pretty scared. He had offered to bring her favorite food, but the young woman refused, saying she'd just eat at home. With that, he figures she's not hungry, and suddenly his phone rings with a new call. On the other end of the line, the attacker apologizes and invites him to dinner to make amends, asking him to arrive before 8:30. With a malicious smile, the young man confirms the meeting and says goodbye, telling him he'll be waiting. Our protagonist finds the man's behavior strange and suspects something is fishy about this whole thing. Despite his suspicion, he gets on his motorcycle and leaves, calculating he has enough time to get there. Riding through the city streets under the moonlight, he gets closer to the meeting spot. He sees a woman and child in danger, with a car speeding right at them. Our protagonist gets angry at the recklessness and thinks the driver has a death wish. The black car speeds up even more, and it's clear the driver has no intention of stopping. Without a second thought, he throws his motorcycle in front of the vehicle to prevent the tragedy. The scene shows him acting as a human shield to save the mother and child from being run over. A bald, tattooed man gets out of the car and quickly grabs the little boy by the hand. The mother panics and screams desperately, asking what he plans to do with her son. At that, she runs after the car, begging them to let the boy go. Our protagonist is shocked by the criminal's audacity, kidnapping someone in broad daylight. A moment later, the black car peels out at high speed to escape with the child. One hen then warns that the crooks are very unlucky to have crossed his path. He guns his motorcycle and begins a frantic chase. The driver sees him approaching and threatens him, telling him to mind his own business. Undeterred, our hero gets closer and rams his motorcycle into the side of the car. The bald guy tells the driver to ignore the idiot and get away because the police are coming. The vehicle's driver yells that he'll settle the score with our protagonist later. With that, the kidnapper's car tries to speed up to lose him for good. One hen scoffs, saying that if they want to outrun him, they're gonna have to beg. The chase continues through the streets, with our protagonist glued to the car's tail. The driver is possessed with rage and curses loudly while trying to shake the hero. A daring maneuver, Wong Han slams the crook's car into a wall. He then gets off his bike and, with a mocking tone, challenges the blonde guy to try and run again. Furious, the driver gets out of the car and lunges at our hero with a knife in hand. Our protagonist isn't even fazed by the threat and questions if the guy still has the nerve to yell. So, he prepares to counter with a precise blow and put an end to the criminal's little show. With a swift move, Won Gi-han strikes the blonde guy's neck, knocking him out instantly. After taking down the driver, our protagonist goes to the car to rescue the scared little boy. He calms the child down and tells him not to be afraid because his mother will be there soon to get him. At that moment, the bald guy takes advantage of the distraction and gets out of the car to try and escape. A Won In Ji-han notices the escape attempt and asks if the big guy really thinks he can go anywhere. With that, the criminal runs down an alley, and our protagonist follows, saying he'll see just how far he can run. The chase continues through the city's narrow alleys, with our hero right behind the bald guy. The criminal runs up the stairs of a building, desperate to lose his pursuer. But our protagonist doesn't give up and continues to follow the crook down a dark hallway. He corners the bald guy in a room and asks if he wants to play hide and seek. Upon entering the room, our protagonist finds a woman on the bed and comments on the criminal's new trick. The woman then strikes a pose and beckons him closer, saying she will serve him. Our protagonist remains indifferent to her advance, leaving the woman a bit surprised. Faced with this, she gets up from the bed and questions if he's not satisfied with what he sees. From there, she corners him and offers a special discount of 598 yuan. With that, he pushes her away and explains he didn't come here to see her, telling her to get out of the way. At that exact moment, a police officer bursts through the door behind him, catching everyone by surprise. The officer points her gun and tells them to freeze, while the woman recognizes her and says she's not working. Won Han makes up a story about being with his girlfriend, but the officer tells the woman to get down, no questions asked. Suddenly, a noise behind the door gets the officer's attention, and she yells, asking who's there. She then uses our protagonist as a shield and warns whoever is inside that the police have arrived. The officer holds the doorknob firmly and advises the suspect not to resist. Carefully, our protagonist cracks the door open to peek at what's happening on the other side. The bald guy then jumps out with a tray, trying to attack the officer. In a quick reflex, Won Han pulls her aside, saving her from the attack and yelling for her to be careful. The officer is furious and yells that the criminal dared to attack a law enforcement officer. She charges at the bald guy and takes him down with a solid blow. Our protagonist watches the scene and thinks that the officer is pretty fierce. She then reports the arrest of the two suspects over the radio, and our protagonist tries to explain himself. With a smile, Won Gi-han says he was just helping and that he's a model citizen. The officer scoffs, saying that's what they all say, and pulls out another pair of handcuffs. Our protagonist asks if she's serious, but the officer tells him to take it up at the station. Thus, she cuffs him and says the police don't arrest the innocent or let the guilty go free. The scene cuts to the moon in the night sky, indicating the passage of time. A little later, they arrive at the police station to sort everything out. Once inside and still cuffed, our protagonist asks the officer for a glass of water. The woman gets annoyed and asks if he thinks the police station is his home. Just then, a director arrives and congratulates the officer on the drug trafficker case. The director is surprised she caught both of them by herself, but she says one was already injured. He then asks who was responsible, and she says she didn't get a good look because of the cars. Our protagonist tries to mention his motorcycle, but the irritated officer tells him to shut up. Seeing the scene, the director asks the officer what the problem is with our protagonist. The officer lies through her teeth, saying he was just a client and she arrested him easily. Our protagonist suggests checking the cameras, but another officer arrives saying they found the person who caught the criminals. To everyone's surprise, the file shows a picture of Wong Han as the real hero of the story. The director then asks if there's been a mistake, but the other officer confirms it and tells them to take off his handcuffs. With that, one of the officers approaches and finally frees our protagonist from the cuffs. The female officer looks embarrassed, and he tells her he warned her, but she's all brawn and no brains. With pure anger in her eyes, the officer yells, asking what he just said. Ignoring her, our protagonist checks his phone and realizes he's very late for dinner. He then bolts out, and the officers shout his name, but he's already long gone. Outside, he hails a cab and tells the driver to step on it, but the driver says safety comes first. Seeing how slow he's going, our protagonist offers the cabbie 1,000 yuan to speed up. The moment he sees the money, the driver doesn't think twice and floors it. With the cash in hand, the man transforms into a getaway driver and peels out, tearing through the city. The driver then screams at him to sit tight, boasting that his family owns a tofu shop. Suddenly, the taxi arrives at high speed, but the house is on fire. A crowd watches as firefighters try to extinguish the blaze that started out of nowhere. Two women watch the scene in fear, hiding behind a nearby car. The attacker is also there, and a firefighter asks an old woman if anyone is inside. The woman says the eldest daughter of the Su family must be trapped in the flames. Upon hearing Sukei Su's name, the young man is completely shocked by the news. He then grabs the old woman and asks if his wife is really in the burning house. Pretending to be a hero, the attacker runs towards the fire, supposedly to save her. People scream for him to come back because the fire is too big and he has no protection. The old woman blames herself for what she did while a firefighter radios in about the intruder. At that exact moment, Sukei Su shows up and asks why the house is on fire. The woman starts praying, asking for protection for the young man who ran into the fire for nothing. She then realizes that Sukei Su wasn't home and that the young man risked his life for no reason. Sukei Su turns and asks which young man she's talking about and if there's anyone else in the house. The old woman explains that a tall, strong young man ran in when he heard she was inside. Sukei Su tries to enter the fire, but a firefighter stops her, saying it's too dangerous. She screams Wong Han's name in agony while the other woman prays because the fire is so intense. Completely devastated, Sukei Su cries and screams her husband's name, accepting her condolences. As the firefighters spray water on the flames, she wonders how he could leave her like this. Suddenly, a figure leaps over the flames with impressive speed. Our protagonist then emerges from the fire and asks for help putting out the flames on his body. The firefighters use extinguishers on him, and the young man complains that he's burning up. Seeing that he's okay, Sukei Su runs towards him, screaming his name in relief. She hugs him tightly and asks if he's stupid for not valuing his own life. In tears, the young woman asks what would become of her and the children if he didn't come back. A smile, Wong Han reassures her, saying he's perfectly fine despite everything. She scolds him for the scare, but he says it's worth it to save his family. The old woman suggests he go to the hospital, but our protagonist refuses, saying he's fine. Everyone then looks at the burning house, wondering how the fire started out of nowhere. With a serious face, Wong Han deduces that the attacker from last night is behind this. So, Sukei Su covers him with a cloth and tells him they should go home, and he agrees. The scene then cuts to their car arriving at a building at night. Once home, the young woman asks if it was his cousin who invited him to dinner, and our protagonist confirms it. She then says she installed cameras and will use the footage to send the culprit to jail. In the recording, the attacker and his men appear with gas cans, confirming her suspicions. Wong Han calms her down and tells her they should eat first, and they can deal with this tomorrow. But Sukei Su is still furious and swears she won't let them get away with it. The next day, our protagonist arrives on his motorcycle at the gym's parking lot. Suddenly, a red car almost hits him, and he complains to the driver for nearly crashing into him. The driver apologizes, saying she just got her license recently, and asks for help parking. From there, the woman looks at him and is shocked to recognize him from the day before. Our protagonist greets her and finds it funny that they've run into each other again. The officer questions what he's doing there, and Wong Han replies that he works here now. She says she's an apprentice, and he explains that he just started at the gym too. Inside, two students greet him as Master Wong, and our protagonist replies with a good morning. The officer is surprised that he's a fighter, and Wong Han questions her doubt. With that, she underestimates him, saying he can't even beat her, and yet he wants to be a fighter. Faced with the situation, the woman points at him and challenges him to a fight right then and there to prove her point. Our protagonist says he never fights women, but she threatens him not to look away. Not believing him, the officer lunges forward, trying to land a quick and precise blow. He then offers her a handicap, but if she loses, she'll have to run naked in front of him. The officer is furious at the proposal and attacks with a powerful kick aimed at him. Our protagonist blocks the kick with ease and says she has no strength at all. So the two face off and assume combat stances for the imminent clash. With a furious look, the woman prepares to attack again with more intensity than before. A moment later, she tries a high kick, but our hero dodges with an agile move. He then mocks her and asks if she got into the police force through some connection. Irritated by the taunt, the officer yells at him to shut up and attacks with everything she has again. With all her strength, the woman unleashes a powerful kick to end the fight once and for all. Our protagonist dodges and warns that if she doesn't have a trick up her sleeve, he's going to fight back. The officer tells him not to be so cocky and lunges forward with a new attack. With that, the woman tries to land a powerful punch right on our hero's chin. But Won Gi-han catches her fist with one hand without any apparent difficulty. A clip shows his hand firmly gripping the officer's arm, leaving her frozen. From there, he pulls her close, leaving the woman completely embarrassed by the situation. The officer calls him a pervert and tries to break free from his grip. Effortlessly, our protagonist immobilizes her arms, leaving her with no escape. The woman is speechless, seeing that she has been completely dominated by her opponent. He then asks if she gives up yet, and the officer admits she lost the fight. With a victorious smile, Won Gi-han reminds the woman of the bet they made. She then accepts her defeat and says she'll take off her clothes, but he says he was just kidding. The officer insists that a martial artist must keep their word and accept defeat. So, she unzips her jacket and says she's going to give him a good look. Our protagonist panics and covers his eyes, yelling that he's a married man. He then runs up the stairs, saying he's married and has things to do. The officer just watches him with a victorious smile on her face. With an air of superiority, the woman zips up her jacket and scoffs at the man's courage. The scene changes to a man praising a young pianist for playing so well. The young woman, however, says he doesn't understand music and is just giving empty praise. At that moment, Won Gi-han enters the room and is surprised by teacher Shia's talent. The man is shocked by his arrival. The man then questions if he understands music, and our protagonist identifies the piece as Nocturne. Teacher Shia is happy that he knows her favorite piece, but our hero says he prefers another one. With a smile, the young woman asks if our protagonist can play the piano and invites him to try. The man scoffs, saying he's too clumsy for that, but the woman ignores him and pulls him by the hand. And so our protagonist sits at the piano and says he'll play the same song again. He then begins to play a perfect melody with his eyes closed, impressing everyone. Teacher Shia is completely enchanted by the music and blushes at his performance. The other guy's jaw drops and he gets irritated upon realizing our hero can actually play. With a final flourish on the keys, he finishes the song, leaving the room in silence. The woman praises his incredible technique, but our protagonist says she just needs to correct a few minor flaws. The man gets annoyed and questions how our protagonist dares to instruct the young pianist when he only knows a few notes. Just then, a woman in a suit enters the room and asks if the young lady was playing Nocturne. The newcomer praises the performance, saying she never imagined her skills had improved so much. With an air of superiority, the man says that teacher Ren has arrived and that our protagonist can leave now. The young pianist then clarifies that she wasn't the one playing, and the teacher asks who was responsible for the music. The woman then looks at our protagonist's back and wonders who this Brother Wong is. Shocked, she approaches and asks if he is Professor Wong, but our protagonist denies being that person. The other guy laughs at the situation and says he's no professor, so he was just a food delivery guy. The teacher recognizes him and reveals she took classes with him at the Berkeley College of Music. Our protagonist says his goodbyes, mentioning he needs to go cook, and the woman bids him farewell, calling him Professor. The man then questions what kind of professor he is, and she reveals he's an honorary professor at Berkeley. Completely shocked, the guy says she must be mistaken and has confused him with someone else. The woman asserts that the melody was unmistakable and questions the young woman why she would need another teacher. The pianist looks embarrassed and says she wasn't expecting this surprise either. The scene cuts to a building where someone on the phone is complaining about receiving food, and the other person is worried. In the office, Yukaisu asks how work at the gym is going, and our protagonist replies that it's good for exercise. Suddenly, his phone rings, and he finds it odd since he doesn't do deliveries anymore, but he soon recognizes it's the old man. On the other end of the line, a voice scolds him for being undisciplined and working as a boxing coach. The mysterious man threatens him, saying he's going to call his older sister for a serious talk. He informs him that he's already spoken with Master Xia and that Won Gi-han is forbidden from going back there and must find a non-violent job. With that, the old man gives him a new mission to recover a Buddha head that was stolen by criminals. It's explained that the criminals are an organization of lunatics who operate outside the law and serve foreign enemies. Furthermore, he reminds him to keep the bead his sister gave him safe and to find the other one as soon as possible. Hanging up the phone, Asuke Isu asks what happened, but our protagonist says he's going to meet someone. She then tells him to be careful, and our hero says his goodbyes, mentioning he's heading out. The scene changes to the afternoon, and we see the facade of a very modern and luxurious building. Arriving on his motorcycle, Won Gi-han introduces himself to manager Jung, who was already waiting to make arrangements. At that moment, a security guard approaches and recognizes him as the delivery guy linked to the Su family's daughter. Our protagonist tries to deny it, but the guard insists, saying he's seen his picture and is sure of it. Soon after, other guards join in and ask him to tell them in detail what really happened. With a cigarette in his mouth, our protagonist says there's nothing to talk about regarding that matter. The guard then offers him a pack of cigarettes and asks him to tell the story while he has a smoke. With that, Won Gi-han reveals he married the Su family's daughter, but they don't approve because he's poor. The guards doubt the story and question why a woman of her status would marry him. So, the guard accuses him of bragging and says that the Su family's daughter bought an apartment nearby. Upon hearing that, our protagonist is shocked and asks if it's true that she bought a house in the neighborhood. The guard scoffs at him, but suddenly they all see President Su's red car approaching. The guard quickly salutes as the luxury car drives past them on the street. From there, the man pushes him and asks why our protagonist is hiding from his own wife. Suke Isu then gets out of the car and questions why he's not working at the martial arts gym. Won Gi-han explains that something unexpected came up and he had to leave, and the woman tells him to come with her. As the two walk together, the guard comments that this whole situation is going to be very interesting. Before leaving, our protagonist turns and flips off the nosy guard. As they walk away, Shukiaisu asks how long he intended to hide the fact that he was working there. He says he just arrived, and she complains that she doesn't feel comfortable living in his house with another woman. Given the situation, Shukiaisu tells him to quit his security job and become her personal driver. The woman also reminds him that he lost his last job because of her and tells him not to be late the next day. This leaves our protagonist thoughtful, wondering if this means he's going to be living off her. The scene then cuts to a huge commercial building, signaling the start of a new workday. Arriving at the location, a security guard approaches the car and asks the boss to step out of the vehicle. Sukei Sui explains that she got an office for him and that he can walk around when he's not driving. A moment later, the security guards greet the woman respectfully, calling her CEO Su. She just nods and heads towards the building's entrance with our hero. One of the guards watches the scene from afar and comments that the relationship between the two is very strange. Elsewhere, a boss tells an employee named Lily that her department is going to face layoffs. With a serious expression, the woman states that she cannot comply with his request under any circumstances. The man then brings up her sick mother and offers her $30,000 a month in exchange for a favor. Outraged, Lily demands respect and says she would never do that, but the man grabs her forcefully. He corners her and tells her to stop pretending, while the woman pleads for him to let her go. From the hallway, Wong Gi-hen yawns on how bored office workers must be. Upon hearing the screams, our protagonist approaches and realizes there's harassment going on in the office. The man then rips Lily's blouse, and she screams desperately for help while trying to defend herself. The attacker tells her to shut up, but the woman continues to scream for help. At that moment, Won-hen appears at the door and asks if the two are busy right now. The man becomes enraged by the interruption and yells, asking who he is and what he's doing there. He then tells our protagonist to get out of the room immediately before things get ugly. Without saying a word, Wong Gi-han simply kicks the attacker with all his might. The man flies across the office and hits the floor hard, completely stunned by the blow. Our protagonist then glares at him and says he shouldn't try to do that in front of others. Lying on the floor, the man threatens to call the police to arrest Won Ji-hen for assault. He even accuses Lily of trying to seduce him, but the woman denies everything, saying it's a lie. With an air of superiority, the attacker says the police will believe his version of the events. Wang Gi-han then holds up his phone and reveals he recorded everything, sending the man into a panic. Desperate, the attacker tries to grab the phone from our hero's hands to erase the evidence. But with a simple slap, our protagonist sends him flying again without any difficulty. With the phone in hand, our protagonist threatens him, saying he could end him today. The attacker begs him to stop, and Lily tells him to let him go, because they can't mess with him. Our protagonist warns that he saved the video, and the man swears he will never do it again. With that, he tells the woman they should leave, and the attacker is left behind on the office floor. In the hallway, our protagonist asks if she has another shirt, and the woman thanks him for his help. The young woman then introduces herself and invites him for a meal as a thank you. He declines the invitation and tells her to find him if the scumbag causes any more trouble. Once outside, our protagonist comments to himself that the company is a total mess. At that moment, one of the security guards approaches him and asks to borrow a lighter. The guard recognizes him and introduces himself as Da-chun, an old childhood friend. Our protagonist recognizes him too, and his friend says he's missed him a lot all these years. The guy hugs him and says his grandmother always advised him to hang out with our protagonist. Suddenly, another security guard appears and tells the idiot to go buy a pack of cigarettes for his daddy. Our protagonist is a bit confused by the other man's sudden interruption. Dae-chun explains that the other guy is his coworker and asks our hero to wait a bit so they can talk. The friend tries to calm down the tattooed colleague and says that Won-han is a good friend he hasn't seen in years. To avoid more trouble, Dae-chun offers the man 50 yuan to go buy his own cigarettes. The brute takes the money and says he'll cut his friend some slack today. At that moment, our protagonist taps the tattooed man on the shoulder, getting his attention. The man asks who he is, but Won Ji-han just tells him to give his friend's money back. Having no patience for the guy's arrogance, our protagonist lands a hard slap right across his face. Lying on the ground, the brute hears that Da-chun is his brother, and if he bothers him again, things will get ugly. Filled with rage, the man gets up and runs off, yelling at our hero not to dare run away. The friend then asks why he hit the guy, and our protagonist says people like that only understand force. A moment later, the bully returns with a group of security guards and points at Won Gi-han, telling them to get him. To protect his friend, Dae-chun steps in front and offers to take the beating in his place. The tattooed man yells at him to get out of the way because no one's going to listen to him, and he's going to beat them both up. He shoves a chubby coworker aside to clear a path and attack our protagonist once and for all. The older security guard then offers cigarettes to the captain, and Dae-chun explains that the guy is new here. The tattooed man is confused by the captain's attitude and questions what he means by that. The captain then tells the man to shut up and kicks him, saying he deserved the beating. With that, our protagonist says Dae-chun is his brother, and the captain warns that anyone who messes with him will have to deal with him. Won-han thanks him for the support, and the older security guard says it's an honor to have his respect. Soon after, they see Lily walking towards them from across the street. The woman approaches with a drink in her hand and a serene look on her face, catching everyone's attention. The guards are jaw-dropped by her beauty and comment on how stunning she is. The captain then reveals that her husband was an addict who left her with a mountain of debt. Despite all the hardship, the woman cracks a gentle smile upon seeing our protagonist there. The security guards get hearts in their eyes when they realize her smile was directed at them. They then go into a full-blown panic when they see the woman is going to talk directly to our protagonist. She then hands him a coffee and says that smoking too much is very bad for his health. After handing over the drink, the young woman turns and walks away, leaving everyone speechless. His colleagues are completely shocked and say our protagonist is a god for pulling that off. The captain asks what flavor it is, and he replies that it's a bit bitter, but the guard says it must be sweet. The friend then comments that Won Han has always been popular with the ladies and invites him to be his apprentice. Our protagonist continues to drink his beverage while his friend gives a thumbs up. Suddenly, a luxury car pulls up right in front of them, and the security guards are impressed. A moment later, a very elegant woman with purple hair steps out of the vehicle. The captain then wonders if she also came to see our protagonist again. With an annoyed look, the woman calls out for Han Dae-chun, saying she finally found him. His coworkers are shocked because they never imagined he knew a rich woman. He recognizes her as Song Chuan, but the woman complains that he smells really bad. The young man then explains that their class monitor is getting married tomorrow and asked her to let everyone know. The woman finds our protagonist familiar, and Dae-chun introduces him as Brother Han. She remembers him as the kid who got scolded at school every Monday. Our protagonist pays it no mind and says a hero doesn't live on past glories. She then asks where he works, and our protagonist says he does small projects. With a smile, he replies that he works in intelligent mobile transport engineering. Faced with the situation, our protagonist reveals that he's actually just a driver for his boss. Upon hearing the truth, Dae-chun can't hold it in and spits out his drink from laughing so hard. With that, the woman invites him to a wedding and says it will be good for his career, and our protagonist accepts the offer. She then says her goodbyes and warns him not to be late for the event the next day, and Dae-chun confirms he got the message. A moment later, the friend asks to borrow a luxury car, so he won't be embarrassed in front of the other guests. Won Ji tells him to have more ambition and promises to get him an even better car for the party. From there, our protagonist says goodbye to everyone and heads up to his apartment while the guards wave him off. The scene then cuts to the luxurious building where he currently lives with his family. Arriving home, a woman questions him for coming back early, and he asks why she always takes a shower when he gets there. With a mischievous smile, the woman asks if he wanted her to wait for him so they could shower together. Ignoring the provocation, our protagonist asks to borrow her car for the wedding the next day. The woman then invites him to drive right now and tells him to forget all about tomorrow. He rejects her and throws her clothes at her, telling her not to be reckless since he's already a married man. The woman then reveals she knows everything and tells him to divorce ICUE and be with her. Given the situation, she drops her towel and is left in her underwear to try and seduce him. She then grabs him, saying she'll have him forever, and he thinks about having a confrontation with his wife soon. Anne pushes her away and tells her to stop because his wife is pregnant and needs peace. The woman then reveals that the car had a problem and will only be ready tomorrow afternoon. Our protagonist says he needs the car in the morning and that he'll think of another solution. From there, he calls Old Man Lin and asks for a Rolls-Royce Phantom for the next day, leaving the woman shocked. Walking down the office hallway, Won Han complains that the life of a worker is so boring. Suddenly, he sees a mean kid calling a little girl a bastard and saying she doesn't have a father. Our protagonist is confused and wonders where that ill-mannered child came from. He gets annoyed and grabs the boy's arm, asking whose son he is and why he's hitting others. The boy screams for him to let go, but our hero threatens to slap him if he doesn't stop. Losing his patience, Won Gi-en squeezes the boy's arm harder to teach him a lesson. On the ground, the boy points at our protagonist, and a woman arrives screaming, asking who made her son cry. The boy's mother is furious and questions our hero why he dared to hit her son. He then explains that the boy is ill-mannered, and the mother retorts, asking who he thinks he is to lecture him. The woman defends her son, saying the girl's father passed away, and even insults her mother for being a bad influence. At that moment, the little girl's mother comes running and asks little Sixie if she's okay. The girl points at the boy and says he called her names for not having a father and even spit on her. The woman lies through her teeth, saying the other's daughter is spoiled and that her son was just trying to comfort her. From there, Lily apologizes to Manager Song, but our protagonist is disgusted by the scene. Wanting Hen stares at the woman and asks which department she's from and introduces himself as President Su's personal driver. With an air of superiority, she underestimates him and threatens to have him fired today for his audacity. The woman leaves in a huff and Lily asks him to apologize because they can't pick a fight with the finance manager. Our protagonist is unfazed and tells her to let her complain because he wants to see what she'll say to the boss. The woman gets very worried, thinking the president will side with the manager and that our hero will get in trouble because of her. In the boss's office, the manager accuses Won Gi-han of being corrupt and dangerous, suggesting he be fired immediately. A moment later, our protagonist enters and offers to educate the woman's spoiled son for free. The manager gets even more irritated and says he doesn't act like a subordinate, but like a street thug. Very calmly, Suke-Isui says she understands the situation and tells the woman to leave the office. Seeing the other's insistence, Suke-Isui repeats with a serious look that she understands everything and asks if she needs anything else. The woman then leaves embarrassed, and Suke-Isui asks our protagonist to close the office door. He then approaches and notices that even while pregnant, his wife is still wearing high heels. With that, our protagonist kneels and offers her a more comfortable pair of shoes to try on. Touched by the gesture, Suke-Isui thinks that this man she loves and hates at the same time. He then notices that her foot is quite swollen and offers to give her a massage to ease the pain. The woman tries to refuse, but our protagonist insists and asks her not to move while he takes care of everything. Completely embarrassed, Suke-Isui never imagined he would one day massage her feet. Suddenly, an assistant enters the room and announces that the team of French experts has finally arrived. Seeing the scene, the employee is embarrassed by the situation and apologizes for interrupting the moment. Han quickly stands up, and his wife asks what happened, trying to hide her embarrassment. The assistant explains that the French translator is stuck in traffic, and the others only speak English. Suki suggests using an online translator, but the proposal has too many technical terms, and the translation would be inaccurate. Faced with the impasse, our protagonist offers to try and solve the translation problem for the boss. The woman is surprised, and he explains that he lived on the streets of France for a while, so he knows a bit of the language. The employee warns that time is running out, and Suki asks if he's really capable of doing this. With a confident smile, our protagonist assures her that it should be possible to help in the meeting. So, she agrees and tells him to come with her to resolve this important situation. They then enter the meeting room, and Suki welcomes Mr. Chatham and his team. Our protagonist then greets the man in fluent French to start the meeting. He translates for Suki that the expert was pleased to meet her and shakes her hand. The woman is impressed and thinks he's a true master of deception for hiding so many talents. The meeting continues, and the assistant informs that 2 more panel members will join via video call. Suddenly, 2 Japanese men appear on the screen, and one of them introduces himself as Yamamoto Ichiro. Suki is surprised because she wasn't informed about the participation of Japanese experts in the meeting. Our protagonist explains that the man wants to share his experience, and is the head of the company in East Asia. Everyone is shocked that he speaks Japanese, but our hero says he only knows a little from his travels. Suki asks him to translate and give a summary of the project to everyone present. She then wonders if this is still the same food delivery guy she used to know. 2 hours later, the assistant informs them that Mr. Chatham's team went to the hotel very satisfied. Suki turns to our protagonist and thanks him very much for his help today in the meeting. He replies that it was nothing and tells her not to be so formal with him since they're family. Our protagonist then affectionately touches her shoulder as he approaches the table. With a smile, he asks what benefits he'll get and says he needs to think of a good reward. Embarrassed by the situation, Suki tells him to be serious because they're in a company. Our protagonist then asks for tomorrow morning off to go to a colleague's wedding, and the woman is surprised. She approves the time off and tells him to get back to work, and Gahan agrees to leave the room. Before leaving, he asks what she wants to eat at night, but the woman says she's busy and they'll talk later. Alone in her office, Suki calls him a blockhead for not being able to seize the opportunity she gave him. The scene then cuts to the front of the building where he finds Da-chun, who asks if his suit looks good. Our protagonist compliments his friend, who confesses to being very nervous about the upcoming wedding. To calm him down, Han says he's there for him and hands him a luxury watch to wear at the party. Chun puts on the watch and asks if it's real, and our hero confirms it, telling him to be cool today. The friend thinks it's a joke because a watch like that would cost over $1 million, but the guy tells him to have some class. Our protagonist gives him a serious look, and his friend is surprised by his attitude. Suddenly a Rolls-Royce pulls up in front of them, and Da-chun calls Gahan his godfather, saying he's amazing. The friend says renting the car would cost half his salary and offers to pay next month. Our protagonist calls him pathetic and opens the car door, telling him to get in already. Once in the car, the guy says he's nervous, and our hero reassures him, saying the girl will want to run away with him. Arriving at the hotel, Gahan gets out of the car and gets ready for the event with his friend. Seeing the couple's photo, the guy comments that their colleague is marrying a rich old man. Our protagonist heard she married one of the founders of the Sue company and wants to see who it is. Suddenly, a woman calls Da-chun's name and complains about how late he is. She compliments him on looking more presentable, and the guy asks her not to spill his secrets today. The woman then pulls him by the hand and tells them to go in, because the other classmates are already waiting. With that, the 3 of them head inside the hotel to join the other wedding guests. In the party hall, a man greets Professor Fang and asks if he remembers him. The professor says he remembers Feng Jianji and comments that 2 students left a mark on his memory, Da-chun and Wang Kan. The scene then focuses on the faces of the 2 professors who are talking at the table. With that, Professor Fang recognizes Song Qian and compliments her, saying she's getting more beautiful every day. The woman then asks Wang Han to sit down, and he thanks her, feeling a bit awkward. The professor asks who that boss is, and the woman introduces him as Han Da-chun, leaving the old man shocked. Seeing the surprise, Feng Jianji greets Professor Fang with a smile. The professor then asks where Da-chun is making his fortune, and Wang Han says he has a media company. Our protagonist then says he's boss Han's driver and asks if the professor has already forgotten him. Feng Jianji recognizes him and mocks him for not doing well in life and working as a driver for Da-chun. The man says he doesn't look down on him, but everyone had high expectations, and the professor calls him the worst of them all. One of the classmates coughs awkwardly to try and cut the heavy tension at the table. Wang Jihan ignores the taunts and asks why their classmate Jing hasn't arrived at the wedding yet. The guy explains that she's stuck in traffic but is now a rich wife with a husband who makes millions. With an air of superiority, the professor comments that he never imagined having so many impressive people in the class. The other guy then finishes the sentence, saying that of course, there are also drivers among them, and raises his glass. At that exact moment, an elegant woman arrives, apologizing for being late due to heavy traffic. The professor compliments her, and she asks where that big idiot Han Da-chun is, as she heard he was coming. Feng Jianji corrects her, saying the guy is now a president and the owner of his own successful company. The woman laughs out loud and tells them not to exaggerate, as he works as a security guard for the groom. The man then corrects himself and explains that it was our protagonist who said his friend owned a company. She then mocks him for inventing an identity, and he asks her to stop since the bride is getting married. With a look of contempt, the woman calls him a fool for caring more about appearances than reality. Wang Han glares at the woman and asks if she's had enough of a laugh, leaving her speechless. With a furious look, our protagonist says he found it funny and asks if she wants him to step outside so she can laugh at her leisure. The woman underestimates him and asks who he thinks he's scaring and if he knows who her husband is. To calm things down, Feng Jianji stands up and proposes a toast to the professor to stop the fight. With that, everyone at the table raises their glasses and prepares to toast to their reunion. Dae-chun then downs his glass of wine in one go, and the woman looks at him with a disgusted face. Suddenly, the guy chokes on the drink and starts coughing up blood. Unable to hold it back, he spits all the bloody wine onto the woman's and the other guy's faces. Furious, the woman screams that Dae-chun is disgusting and that she can't wear her dress anymore, demanding 38,000. Our protagonist's friend is completely shocked to hear the absurd price of her dress. Feng Jianji tries to calm the situation and offers to wash the clothes, but she keeps demanding the money. The guy then explains that Dae-chun is just a security guard and that 38,000 is almost his annual salary. At that moment, our protagonist says that Boss Han doesn't care about that amount and asks for her account to transfer the money. Feng Jianji scoffs at him, and Wang Han says he'll work for his friend and earn his annual salary in a month. With that, our protagonist makes the transfer right away, leaving everyone at the table jaw dropped. The woman gets furious and says she's gonna have the groom fire Boss Han to see if he keeps pretending. Just then, she waves at someone and asks her husband why he took so long to park the car. From there, the woman introduces her husband, and the man says he had a little trouble parking outside, that he scratched a car, and Dae-chun asks if it was the vehicle with the license plate GNE 0544. With an air of superiority, our protagonist confirms that the car belongs to President Han. The woman scoffs at the car, but her husband reveals that the repairs will cost at least 700,000. Hearing the news, the woman is completely shocked and asks what kind of car costs that much. With a smirk, our protagonist reveals that it's a Rolls-Royce Phantom. The other classmates are dumbfounded and ask if the Rolls-Royce at the entrance really belongs to them. Without a word, our protagonist just shows them the car key to prove it. The couple accuses them of renting the car, but Wang Gihan says his friend bought the vehicle yesterday and they'll have to pay up. The woman doubts the story and asks Feng Jianji to use his contacts to find out the real owner. The man agrees to check the information while the woman glares at them, waiting to see how they'll keep up the act. Dae-chun gets nervous and says it was his fault, and the professor scolds him for being so vain and dishonest. Feng Jianji reports that he couldn't find the owner, and the woman asks for the number to call and pay for the repairs herself. With a triumphant smile, the woman says she's going to call the car owner right now. A moment, the phone on the table starts ringing, leaving Dae-chun confused. Our protagonist then puts the call on speakerphone for everyone to hear. The woman answers the call, and the voice from her phone echoes through the room, to everyone's surprise. She questions Feng Jianji about the number, and the guy confirms that the car belongs to Wen Jihan. With that, the woman is completely shocked, unable to believe the car is really his. Our protagonist informs them that he has already contacted the dealership and that they should remember to